You've spent too much time in your own thoughts. There's always noise. It's killing you to think about what you should have said and done, and to feel guilty about it all the time. You're tired, but not from living. You're tired from thinking. Also, sleep seems louder than daytime. Thoughts coming at you from all sides, and you can't see an off switch. However, what if the issue isn't fear, other people, or the world around you? What if it's the voice inside that won't go away? The person who says they are you. This video isn't just another one to calm down. Get ready for some peace and quiet. Not from the outside, but from inside your chest. The kind of silence that sets you free, that Buddhists work hard to find their whole lives. You will learn something tonight that no one else has taught you. You will feel what it's like to clear your mind without trying to stop your thinking. And you'll feel different inside when this is over. Less heavy, peaceful, true. Do not leave until the end. Because we're not trying to get away. It's about finally going back to the part of you that has been waiting all along. But the mind has to be seen first before it can be empty. Not ruled over or judged, just seen. For a split second, there is silence right before a thought comes into being. It's not loud. It's not asking for your attention. A lot of people don't even notice it. But that's where we're going tonight. Not into the thought itself, but into what comes before it. Thoughts try to hide in this space, into the pure knowledge that has always been there for you. Someone in my mind doesn't want to talk. It never tries to prove anything, has no views, and never gets into arguments. It knows for sure, not in words. In pictures, not so, but in a rough and quiet way that was there before you learned to think. In Buddhism, that's called the space before thought. It's also not something you make. You can see it. A comeback, not a new idea. That area is alive. That's where your peace lives. Not the peace that comes from making everything right. That kind of person doesn't show up when the bills are paid or when everyone finally gets you. That kind that was there before you even had a name. It's you that's hidden by the noise, the one who doesn't need to show anything. A lot of people spend their whole lives responding to their thoughts. They grab the one that shows up. They believe it when someone else shows up. Then someone pulls them in a different direction. They chase every single one, thinking they are in charge, like leaves being blown by the wind. There is something sad about that, though. If you pay attention to every thought, the silence will never have a chance to talk. Thoughts get louder when you try to shut them down. This is where a lot of people go wrong. Being empty doesn't mean getting rid of thinking. It's about remembering how quiet it was before they came along. Like how the ocean doesn't try to stop the waves. It just lets them go up and down without forgetting that there is water below. That's how being aware works. It does not follow every thought. When a thought comes up, it doesn't freak out. It sees everything, but doesn't grab anything. Being aware of that isn't exciting. It doesn't yell at you to pay attention. Thoughts don't yell, "Look at me." It sounds more like the silence that comes after the words, the time between taking breaths. Being present means always being aware, even when the mind is too busy to notice. Everything changes as soon as you touch that, even for a second. You understand that you're not thinking. You're not the sadness, the worry, or even the happiness. You are the thing that sees everything and doesn't change. When you become aware before the thought loses its hold. This is something that is hard to believe until it happens. It doesn't go away. It can't pull you around like a doll anymore, though. As the witness, you are you, not the guy who lost the part. That witness, that open, clear place, is what Buddhism has been pointing to for a very long time. Seeing something is the most powerful method there is. That's it. Seeing the rise of a thought, the moment right before it takes shape. That split second that seems empty but is actually full of being there. Your mind lives in that space, not the one who talks, but the one who looks, the one who knows what is, not the one who plans. Things move more slowly when you rest there. It's no longer like a race through life. The weight of the past and the future goes away. Your own thoughts are no longer following you around. This is not about how to think better. It's about finding out what is there before you even think about it. It is not mysterious in any way. This isn't just for monks or meditation masters. Now is the time for anyone who's sick of being pushed around by their own thoughts to get it. Anyone who is done arguing with themselves and just wants to rest. The mind has a habit that makes it hard to see this place. A habit of moving right away, labeling, making decisions. There are walls between people who say, "This is good," and "That's bad," or "I like this," and "I hate that." Each response puts more distance between you and the quiet that's always there. The method isn't meant to stop labels. It's to see the instant before the name appears. That is the entrance. You might not like being quiet, but that's only because you haven't tried it yet. Not the empty silence, but the quiet that knows what's going on, that hears without wanting to talk back. What it does is just watch without trying to figure anything out. It's the most important part of you, the one who was awake before your thoughts came to you. And when you rest there, even for a moment, you understand how much effort you've been putting into trying to keep your mind from getting out of control. The mind tells stories. Every day, it tells stories about who you are, what other people think, what might happen, and what should have happened. But what about the time before the story starts? That's the truth. It's the empty space where no one has formed an opinion yet. There is no fear, there is no desire that has taken hold, just being there, open and pure. That being there is nothing missing. There's no damage. There's nothing wrong. Thoughts will come. What's wrong is not that. The trouble comes up when they are mistaken for real people. When you think, "I failed," it changes into, "I am a failure." But if you sit in that space before the thought comes, you can see it clearly. A thought comes up. That's all there is to it. Not true, not who you are, just moving with awareness. This doesn't leave any marks, like a bird moving through the sky. That's the magic of being aware before you think. That doesn't mean you can't think anymore. It means no longer being ruled by your thoughts. It means being able to feel a thought without becoming it. To become aware of your anger growing without becoming angry yourself. To be aware of sadness without giving in to it. You turn into the sky. Thoughts are like clouds that pass quickly. The mind will fight against this. It will try to get your attention. It will beg for change, for direction, for a plan. You'll find something amazing if you let those thoughts drift by like leaves on a stream. Being there without needing anything else. Doesn't want anything. It is what it is. That's the peace of mind you've been looking for in relationships, accomplishments, and other things. It was always right here, though, under all the noise. You don't have to do anything to get to it. There is no method, prayer, or belief system. There was only a slight shift in interest, away from what you think and toward the space where it comes from. That change is the start of freedom, the start of emptiness, not as nothingness, but as wholeness without extra stuff. This is something you can do anywhere, as you walk, while sitting down. This is loud enough to listen to while lying down. Just pay attention to the start of a thought. Not the thought itself, but the flicker that happens before the thought comes together. The small worry in the mind right before the story starts. Take a break there. You don't have to hold it. Just pay attention to it, like watching the water move in a pond. The calm is like the water before the waves. That's the real mind. It's always here, even when you have thoughts that change. How do I stay in that space? People ask sometimes. That question is already a thought, though. There is already a move away from it. This is the real answer. Don't try to stay, just come back, over and over, kindly, without any stress, without a goal. And each time you do it, the gap gets bigger, the silence gets stronger, the noise gets quieter. Not because you made it, but because you stopped giving it food. You don't need to be great at this. You don't even have to be regular. You only need to want to do it. Ready to get off the hunt for the next thought. Needed to be quiet enough to hear what the noise was blocking out. Willing to know what it's like to live without having to think about it. Awareness is already there. It doesn't need to be fixed. It's finished already. Free already. The mind forgot. It was busy trying to stay alive, guess what would happen, and keep things under control. But let it rest tonight. Allow it to float. Thoughts should go away like clouds. You don't need to hold them. Do not be scared of them. Keep looking down to see what's there. This is the start of a whole new way of living. Not one based on ideas, but one based on being there. There is a life that is real without having to think about it. A life that starts in the empty space before thought and stays there. The mind is calmer, breathing is slower, and the noise is beginning to fade. Now we can go deeper, since this was just the beginning. Back of the first layer came off. It's still possible to find lies, tales to let go of, patterns to break down. Even further, in the next lesson, we'll look into the false idea that thought and thinking are the same thing, and how letting go of that false belief can bring you peace that nothing else could. Now that we can feel what exists before thought, before noise, before identity, it's time to face one of the smartest tricks the mind has ever pulled. A trick that is so steady and quiet that most people don't notice it. It's like a cloud over them. They talk about it, suffer through it, and base their whole lives on it. Being sure that the things in your head are really you. That the person who thinks is real, unique, and in charge. Is that sound in your head really a person, or is it just noise? People are broken open at one point, but not in a loud or dramatic way. Instead, they fall apart slowly, like a wave giving up. When they truly understand, I am not my thoughts. This is not the same as, I shouldn't identify with my thoughts, or I try to detach. It is a knowing that can't be changed, that each thought, opinion, and exchange played over and over is just passing through. All of it doesn't belong to anyone. Thoughts take place, that's it. They go up and down like the wind and the sound of nothing. But the thinker, That's the trick. Take a close look. "I'm not good enough" comes to mind. What makes that sentence personal? It's not the words. People naturally think that someone is following them, a person who thought them up, a self that has control over them. But if you look that idea in the light, it breaks down. Picked that thought, right? Did you start from scratch? Or did it just show up out of the blue, like a bird landing on a branch? This is how most people live their whole lives. They have a thought, hold on to it, and it becomes their truth. "I'm anxious" instead of "anxiety is here," or "I'm a failure" instead of "there's a thought about failure." But Buddhism has been telling us for hundreds of years that thoughts come up in awareness, but they are not awareness itself. Thoughts move through the mind like clouds move through the sky. The cloud doesn't turn into the sky. It doesn't do anything but hold it and let it go. Suffering starts only when the thought is believed, when it is held dear like a valuable property. That faith gives it strength. Truth isn't power, though. It's not true just because you believe it. And the person who thinks, who always seems to be planning something, it's not a person, it's just an idea. The thought is just an echo in your mind that is acting like the source. Something strange happens when you pay close attention to your thoughts. They seem to appear out of thin air. They rise up without being asked. The person makes their own choice, not you. Thought after thought, like hands moving water without being seen. Still, every wave tells us, this is who you are, and we believe it. But here's the good news. The person who believes or thinks is also a thought. Not a center, not a soul, not a set name or number. It was just another show. One more wave. And when that is deeply seen, something inside calms down. You stop trying to keep your thoughts in check. You no longer need each thought to make sense. You now know the difference between thought and self. This isn't about ignoring your thoughts. It's not like cleaning a dirty window to clear your mind. It means taking a step back and realizing that there is no one inside your ideas. There are no small controllers that pull buttons. Something to do. Move around. You can be aware of a thought, just like you can be aware of anything else. You're not the sound, though. What you feel is not you. You are not the thought, either. Everything is personal when you believe in a thought. It doesn't hurt to think about failing until it happens to me. It takes pain to turn a memory of pain into my pain. What if it doesn't have "my" in it? What if the thought is just a thought, the pain is just pain, and the story is just background noise? The story that holds all of these thoughts together and gives it a name is the ego. But the glue runs out when you don't believe. The self falls apart. Of course not, but in a way that makes you feel free. Being someone starts to feel less heavy. There is no part to play, not a picture to keep safe. There is no story to protect. Just being there. And the one who watches doesn't say anything. That thing doesn't speak. It doesn't have a view. It only sees. Of course. Quite. All the time. That's the real you beneath the noise. Not the person who thinks, not the story, but the silence that watched it all happen. When a thought comes up and says, "I'm too busy," awareness doesn't disagree. It doesn't say no. It only sees. Thoughts come and go. Don't grab it. Don't try to fight it. I'm just watching. Nothing but silence. That's what clears the mind, not holding back or controlling, but understanding. Buddhist meditation is not about getting rid of all thoughts. Watching the mind so carefully and honestly that the idea of a central thought starts to fall apart. You don't get free. You understand that you were always free. Your belief in the thinker was the only thing that held you back. People look for peace for decades while holding the one thing that stops them, the idea that they are the voice in their head. But that sound changes all the time. It tells you you're great one minute and not good at all the next. It wants to succeed sometimes and give up other times. Still, we believe everything as if it came from a source that knows everything. Tonight, though, you can take a step back. You don't have to connect to watch, to hear the voice but not do what it says, to have the thought but not make it your life's sentence. That is not rejection. It is freedom. Freedom from having to show your identity all the time. The freedom from having to fix every thought. Liberation from the inner reviewer, the planner, the worrier, the judge. Just thoughts. Not any of them you. Thought is a tool. It can warm or burn like fire. You start chasing smoke, though, when you mistake the flame for the fireman. You argue with your mind in the hopes that it will finally say something nice. It doesn't have to, though. You can hear it, but don't worry about it. You can see it and stay where you are. It's powerful to know that the thought is not real. And this isn't some far-off dream of enlightenment. You don't need to pray or sit in a cave for hours. Try this. The next time you have a thought, stop. In the time between seeing it and reacting to it, feel the space. You are that place. The mind that is aware of the thought but isn't taken over by it. Take a break there. Some beautiful things happen as you sink deeper into that awareness. The mental conversation starts to fade, not because you shut it down, but because you stopped believing the person who wrote it. And the story doesn't make sense without the author. The mind starts to calm down, like a lake that has been stormed, finally getting calm. Okay, still, deep. The calmest times don't come from having answers. When the questioner leaves, they come. When the talk inside stops. When no one else is around to defend, explain, or prove it. Take a deep breath. Just being there, right now. There will still be thoughts. That is not a failure. It is how things are. But now they don't make you who you are. They do not own you. They feel like the wind on your skin. Felt, but not scared of. Didn't follow. Not personal at all. The thought gets quieter as you rest in what you already know. Because the mind doesn't want recognition, it wants to understand. That thing doesn't need to scream anymore now that you know it's just energy moving through. Making it clear that thinking is not the thinker is what clears the mind, not force or control. That the stream is not the person swimming. It was never a thought to be aware of that. It is what it is. Be quiet, not shook, no cost. And now that the thinker's fantasy is starting to fall apart, a strange thing starts to show itself. One layer of noise stays even when you can't think of anything. It's not as loud or obvious, but it's still very strong. Not full words are being screamed. It's not coming up with strong views. It's marking everything, which is a lot more dangerous. Mind does more than think. It has a name. It sees a tree and says tree right away. It feels something and says anger or fear right away. When it meets a stranger, it says something like kind. weird, or not my type, before the moment has even fully formed. So fast does this automatic name happen that most people never directly experience anything in their lives. It's just the titles, just the shortcuts in your mind. And these shortcuts keep the mind full, the world small, and the self fixed. This is where a huge amount of mental junk lives, not in dramatic thinking, but in the noise of interpretation that is always there. Every moment is saved in the brain as a file, and the process of filing takes away from how alive the event was. We see less of what something is when it has a lot of names. Buddhism has always said to stay away from this trap, because once you name something, you no longer want to know more about it. This makes me sad. Done. That's a bird. Done. That guy is annoying. Done. What if the sadness isn't just sadness, though? It's possible that bird is not just a bird. It's possible that the word annoying is hiding 100 other feelings you have. In reality, giving something a name turns a moment into an idea. Also, ideas are just recycled forms of reality, not reality itself. Labeling isn't bad in and of itself. It's when it hides what it is. The mind starts to think it sees the truth, even though all it really sees are signs. And that makes distance. There should be space between you and the world's raw energy, between you and how you feel, between you and the person next to you. You're not seeing them. You're just seeing a quick version of them in your mind. All of a sudden, life turns into a slideshow of beliefs. Language helps us do things. The tool makes walls when it runs on its own, though. As soon as something is named, it's fixed. It's not moving. It comes in a box. Soon, the world will be broken down into a bunch of groups, like the labels on jars. Certain, safe, and dead. When you live your life through names all the time, there's no wonder, awe, or meaning. In Zen, koans and riddles are used to try to show this. It's not meant to be hard for the student. It's meant to get them out of the habit of depending on labels and logic. It's about not having to explain everything, because once you label something, it stops moving. Truth changes all the time. Changes all the time. Never something that a word can hold. There is no name for direct experience. This is how tea tastes before you call it bitter. This is how birds sound before you think of the word chirping. That's how things really are. The sadness before it turns into a bad mood. That is the raw version now. And that's where the mind starts to clear. This doesn't mean you should never talk or stop speaking. It means that you start to see language as a layer on top of something else. You start to notice when a label comes in and takes away from the beauty of the moment. Stop thinking that the map is the land, and little by little, the thought junk starts to go away. A lot of people think that clutter means having too many things. Mind clutter is having too many names, though. There are too many fixed ideas about what life is, who you are, and what other people are. And each one makes more noise. Every label is like a skin that you need to peel off in order to feel alive again. Try this. Don't name anything you see next time. Feel it. Take a look. You don't even have to name it to feel it. Keep an eye on what happens. All of a sudden, the colors get brighter, the sounds get louder, things take longer. Because it's not busy reviewing, it's not a hurry to record the moment, it's finally here, completely. The mind labels things quickly. It doesn't like being quiet. It doesn't like puzzles. It wants solutions, groups, and names. However, the more you feed it, the stiffer life gets. The mind becomes more open as you practice letting go of the name. In being able to change, peace grows. You're not trying to lock the world in words anymore. Language is not a bad thing. That is, unconscious language is. It's impossible to enjoy the beauty of not knowing when your brain is hooked on describing everything. And it is holy to not know, as long as it gives room for awareness, room to be still, room to meet in a real way. When your feelings come up, try not to name them. Do not call it sadness. Instead, feel its real feel. How it feels in the chest. The way the eyes feel tight. Don't write a story about it. There's no need to answer or defend. Don't do anything. Do not put the energy in a mental box. Just let it be what it is. It gets easier to handle very quickly when it's not being told. People are the same way. Stop calling someone that type of person, and you'll see them in a new way. Whenever. And that newness makes people care, because you're not responding to them the way you used to. You're meeting what's right in front of you, not the name. What's going on behind it? This is something kids do easily. They have direct experiences with everything before they learn all the words. They don't just say flower and move on. They look at you. They touch. They are curious. You are still open at heart. It was just buried under years of thought names. It's not gone, though. It's always been there. It only needs room. Naming becomes a way to keep people in line. The mind's way of acting like it gets life, but it sticks around more the more it names. That's how I feel. This is what it means, and this is mine. But what if you stop trying to take charge of the moment? What if you don't describe it and just let it live? That is what Buddhist awareness is all about. Not a clear picture, not always calm, yes, but raw personality. A present moment awareness that sees the urge to name and lets it go gently. Even though they think, this is boring, they choose to stay interested. That hears the mind say, I know what this is, and then says, maybe I don't. Since we don't really know anything, not really, that's not a problem, it's a way in. Your mind stops running as soon as you say, I don't know. It stops getting ready. It stops screening. And in that stop, the noise fades. Your body starts to speak louder when you don't name it. You have stronger feelings. The breath gets deeper. The muscles loosen up. Because your mind isn't trying to label or fix the experience, you are more in the moment. Finally, it's quiet enough to hear. This is how conceptual thought starts to lose its hold. Language should not be fought, but it should be seen through. Keep in mind that a name is just a sound, an arrow, not the thing itself. You feel freer when you go back to the original experience more often, and when you're free, your mind starts to clear. Not because you turned it off, but because you stopped putting names in it. You no longer think that every event needs to be explained. Sometimes you just have to live the moment. Completely. Without words. That's what Buddha meant when he said, experience directly. Not through the lens of thought. Not told by the inner voice. Pure life that isn't said. As you rest there, you understand that silence is not the lack of sound, but the lack of names, the lack of an explanation. the lack of mental clutter that acts like it understands. Labeling is becoming less of a habit, and now something surprising starts to show up. There is still someone looking below the words, below the thoughts, and even below the silence of not naming. A stillness that says, "I'm noticing right now." At first, it seems divine and peaceful. Take a better look. That is also a layer, a hidden personality, a mask of power. The mind, which is very smart, hides behind this mask and thinks it is free. But what if the person watching is just a part? What if the last trick is to hold on to the observer? This is where the road becomes subtle and even weird, because awareness can turn into another cage if it's not understood right. Being aware means learning to see your feelings without going with them, to see how people feel without getting caught up in it. That change is strong. It breaks the link between them. It makes pain less intense. Next, though, something quiet and dangerous might happen. The ego changes. It changes into a new outfit. In it, it says, "I am the witness. I am the calm observer." And you've made a new identity out of disconnection without even realizing it. It's quiet, but close. It takes work to do, a holding of attention all the time, a soft pulling away from experience, a subtle opinion about what should happen or not happen. It becomes a job to watch. The person watching becomes the boss. Freedom sneaks out the back door in silence, because real nothingness doesn't need someone to see it. Nothing can fully open nothingness until there is no one left to watch. At first, it's scary to let go of the watcher, because it makes you feel like you've given up all power. The last thread of self. That thread is still tense, though. It's still being apart. There will always be a gap between life and the person living it as long as there are observers. A split, a long way. And pain finds its way into that space. The Buddhist masters told people not to do this. People talked about the watcher trap, which is when meditating turns into watching someone, where being there turns into stiffness. With attention, you try to stay above the experience in a quiet way. However, real existence doesn't float. It breaks down. It combines. It goes away completely. Someone or something is watching, but it's not them. It's just being aware. Of course, no words, not having a center. It doesn't say, "I'm here now," or "I have insight." It doesn't have a place. It is what it is. That's what makes them different. What the observer says. Real awareness doesn't do that. The watcher moves away, what real knowledge includes. The person watching acts like a parent watching a child. Awareness just feels things, without judging or taking responsibility for them. The idea of being the one who is aware is what you lose when you let go of the watcher, stopping even the small "I" that says, "Look at how present I am," is not something you do. There is a soft fall back, a breaking down, a total giving up of power, where the person who lets go also goes away. This is the last time I let go, because each layer before this one had a thought, a name, or an identity that it wanted to let go of. But this one needs everything, even the idea that you are the spiritual one, the one who is aware, the person looking, the woke up. It all has to go. And what's left isn't silence or emptiness. It's emptiness mixed with happiness, living without limits, being aware without an owner. You can't make that move happen. It happens when there is too much watching, when being aware turns into stress. Whenever the person who is trying to be present gets tired, it gives up because it's so tired, it doesn't want to, since it doesn't have any more power to hold on. And when you give up, when you fall apart, silence comes back. That is, the silence of no one being there, not the silence of hard work. Part of the mind may be still trying to figure this out, to get it, to get ready for it to happen. That's fine. That's just the watcher getting stronger, being careful to stay in charge. But you shouldn't understand this. That's what people do when they have nothing else to do, when everyone has given up. The watcher, who pretended to be peace for a long time, fades into the background and never comes back. This doesn't mean you're gone. It means that the false sense of difference goes away. Life goes on. You breathe, walk, and talk. But it doesn't make sense to be the one doing it. It's just taking place, not having a center, without any comments, without someone saying, "I'm now watching." This is where a lot of people stop. It's safe. It has a magical vibe. They know something is still being held, though. That person is still alive. And that feeling of being living brings tension. Pay close attention and you'll feel it. Being squished in the stomach. A small amount of fear in the eyes. A need to stay in charge. That's the hint. The person watching is still having fun. Giving up doesn't mean losing your mind. Giving experience a chance to happen without watching is what it means. Keeping out of the moment and letting it happen on its own. Without telling a story, following along, or trying to stay in the moment. Becoming. Being without being aware of it. Just being. It's impossible to explain this kind of influence. This is because the explanation already breaks it. It's like making noise to try to explain quiet. It's a state that can't be talked about. Beyond the idea, besides just witnessing, it doesn't need to be kept up. You don't have to remember it. It is not an accomplishment. It's what was always here when you worked to be here. Someone looks and says, "Be careful." Don't lose yourself, they say. But fear is the ego's last line of defense, because the self falls with the watcher. There is no more void, there is only everythingness left. A huge, empty stillness that holds everything, doesn't need anything, and doesn't fight anything. It doesn't talk, but it always knows the right answer, not with words, but by being there. Try to see it now. Being present is not enough. As long as you don't try to be present, don't try so hard. Rest the person who is watching. Let your attention melt into the event itself. The air is what you are, not what you watch. Do not watch the moment. Be the moment. To feel this, you don't need a self. The self, in fact, is what stops the experience. Someone is keeping an eye on the moon, like a finger. At first, useful, but it has to be put down at some point. Otherwise, you'll keep looking at the finger and miss the moon. Something beautiful happens when it goes away, when the watcher finally fades. Everything gets softer. You are no longer aware as you sit. You are being aware. The breakup is over. It's no longer far away. No longer do you try to be calm. What's left is present without stress. A peace that doesn't need to be guarded. A peace that stays. Thoughts might still come up. They're not being watched, though. There is no one in charge. They go up and down and pass. And as they leave, the silence grows. Not because you made it happen, but because the person who was trying to make it happen is no longer there. This is what the most important Buddhist lessons say, not only calming the mind, but also getting rid of the person who was trying to do that. Not just watching things go by, but also letting the person who is watching go by, until there are no more people to see peace. Peace is all there is. We've seen the watcher for what it is, just another mask the mind puts on to feel in charge. Now we can get to something even more personal, something that doesn't hide behind thoughts or act smart. It comes out raw, hot, and important. A feeling. The one thing that scares even experienced practitioners. It seems real, not because it's hard to understand, but what if feelings are also just temporary? What if having strong feelings about something doesn't mean it's true? This is where most people get sucked back in. The observer drops, and the thought goes quiet. But then a wave of sadness comes up, or a short burst of anger, and then, all of a sudden, the person who thought they had cleared their mind is swept away by a storm of emotions. It's not because the feeling is too strong, but because people believed it. It was touched. It was fought, named, or held. That's when it stays. Feelings are not a problem. They don't mean you're weak or need to be fixed. They are mental weather, which are short bursts of energy that move through the brain. But as soon as you try to fight them, they stay. As soon as you try to figure them out, they become harder. They become part of the story that keeps the self living as soon as you believe them. The trick is to think that how you feel says something about who you are. I feel worried, so I must be broken. I feel angry, so I must not be spiritual. But none of those things are true. Feelings aren't personal. This is not a ruling. It's just moving, just power, like the wind moving across a field. It's not someone else's. It doesn't say anything. It only wants to be felt and left alone. Non-resistance has always been seen as the key to freedom in Buddhist teachings. People often get non-resistance wrong when it comes to feelings, though. A lot of people think it means hiding your feelings, ignoring them, or acting like everything is fine. But that's not all there is to real non-resistance. It means letting the feeling be what it is without trying to change it, name it, figure it out, or even understand it. Not many people let that happen. A lot of people want feelings to act, to be on time, clean up after yourself, and leave quickly. That's not how emotions work, though. It shows up out of the blue. It goes through the body. It makes things move around. If it isn't messed with, it goes away on its own, leaving behind nothing but scars. Most people suffer because of their emotions, not because the emotions themselves hurt. Because they fight it. They put words around it. They decide what to do. They want to know why it's here. Around it, they tell stories. All of that mental action makes things tense. The feeling stays where it is because of the tension. If you try to hold water in a net with your hands too tight, things will get messy. It means that the water can pass through without any problems. It means being aware of the sadness you're feeling without naming it, going through the anger without adding to it, seeing the stress of fear without having to explain it, not because you're not close, but because you're really there, so present that you don't need to get in the way. To feel without adding is important, not to spin, but to sense. When emotions are left alone, they work themselves out. They go up, stop, and then go down. That's how they are. They don't leave behind pain or confusion if they are free to move. They leave room behind. When a feeling goes through its natural cycle, what's left is spaciousness. But at first, it's hard to believe this, because that's what the mind does. To running, to seeing every emotion as a problem that needs to be fixed. Why do I feel this way? What does this mean? How do I stop it? But those questions don't help. They are just ways that the mind tries to take back control, and resistance is still resistance, no matter how holy it acts. As soon as you stop getting in the way, something amazing starts. The feeling flows through you like music, sometimes quiet, sometimes loud, and sometimes all over the place. But it's over, not because you stopped it, but because you didn't grab or push it and let it live its whole life. That's how smart the body naturally is. When the mind isn't there, it knows how to deal with feelings. The reason Buddhist monks don't fight their feelings is this. They also don't give in to it. They let it go up and down like any other event. They don't feel anything because they know that emotion isn't the enemy. It's a problem when people think it to be, when it becomes a person, when it turns into my anger, my trauma, or my story, which are not real. They're just thoughts added to a wave of emotion that will soon pass. Giving up your feelings doesn't mean you become cold. It means being open and honest. So without any resistance that the feeling can pass through it without sticking to anything. Being that open doesn't feel like being distant. It makes me feel calm, like being soft, like being warm without being heavy. When you feel angry or upset, try this. Don't call it that. Feel what's going on in your body. Don't even call it emotion. How tight it feels in the throat, the weight in the chest, the electricity in the arms and legs. Feel, without any word, not a story, not to ask for it to change. Wait. Watch out for it to move. Hold on until it's over, since it will go away. Everything feels that way when it's left alone. The trouble is never how you feel, what the mind does with it. What a study. It was a silencing. The trouble, who they are. That's all just noise. When the noise stops, you understand that the feeling itself was never dangerous. It was just very powerful, short and sweet. One more swell on the huge, still lake's surface. You are that silence. Moods are just the weather. You can enjoy the peace of the sky behind the weather when you stop trying to change it. At least that's what Buddhist practice leads to. This is not a life without feelings, but a mind that doesn't let feelings get in the way of things. Waves will keep going up. You can no longer surf them, though. You can watch them crash and fade from the shore, and as you sit there, be patient and be open. Something starts to change. The feelings lose their sharpness. Their need for speed fades. No, not because they're gone, but because you aren't giving them any more attention, resistance, or personality. This kind of work makes you stronger in a different way. Not the power to stop things, but the power to allow them to move. To fully feel everything and not be shook up. That's not caring. That makes sense. That's being present. That's the kind of peace that doesn't change based on how you feel. It's steady, real, and living. And the mind can finally rest in that peace. since it's not being used to fight anymore, not being kept in check, becoming. When the mind is still, feelings turn back into what they were all along, flow of energy. Not a problem, not the truth, not the person you are. A calm clarity has started to grow now that feelings have been felt without resistance and let go without leaving any residue. But when things become clear, something surprising happens. Insight. Thoughts start to form. Patterns start to show up. People's minds start to gather lessons, truths, and ways to change. And now, without you noticing, another trap starts. Which is why even wisdom can become weight if it is not handled properly. Things that were once light become heavy. Even when the mind is awake, it tends to gather things. There is something very alluring about understanding, spiritual perception in particular. It has a strong feeling. It seems like progress is being made. It says in a low voice, "You're getting it now." And maybe you are. But it's not the understanding that's dangerous. It's the grip. The mind needs to remember what it has seen, to own it, to repeat it, and to make it a part of who it is. The one who is looking learns. The pupil turns into the teacher. And the opening that let information in starts to close. When you hold on to wisdom, it turns into noise. It's not because it's wrong, but because it's dead. It's been stuck in a thought, an idea, or a story. Now it gets in the way of awareness instead of moving through it. Putting too many pretty things in a bag can be like having too many clothes. Too long, they can become heavy. Buddhism has always warned people not to get attached to things, people, or feelings, but also to knowledge. Insight is something the mind wants to turn into a trophy, something to come back to, something to say again. But memories don't hold the truth. It stays in the present, and you can't hold on to the moment. It can only be typed in. Putting knowledge away is not the same as living with it. When you live it, you can't see it. It doesn't quote or go back in time. It moves slowly. It does things without thinking. It answers without asking for a reason. Being that wise doesn't leave a mark. When needed, it comes up, and when not, it goes down. You don't hold it. You feel it as it runs through you. But the mind is afraid of forgetting. It needs to write everything down, say it over and over, and remember it. It's afraid that the lesson will be lost if it lets go. But that's not what's true. Real things don't need to be kept. It comes back when it's needed. It came up again, not because you remembered, but because you were still empty enough for it to. It seems that the mind gets stiffer as more knowledge is carried. This is the truth. This is how it works. And this is what I've learned. But those times are over. Words from the past that try to describe a time that has passed. And how is the moment now playing out? It's not the same. It needs new eyes. I don't remember eyes. It's nice to forget things. That is, the kind that doesn't lose lessons and makes room for new seeing. A mind that isn't stuck on what it learned yesterday is free to meet the new day, not with filters, without making assumptions. This is what keeps knowledge alive. Its freshness, not repeated, but born again. Some of the most important Zen lessons don't make sense when you hold on to them. They're not orders, they're just interruptions, made to break the habit of grabbing, to shock the mind into breaking its habit of storing things. In order to show that truth isn't a place you get to, the door opens even when nothing is going through it. Knowing about spiritual things can also turn into a cage. The mind is not being wise when it starts to compare realizations, track progress, and quote lessons. It's smart. Smartness makes a lot of noise. Quiet is wise. It talks about what it knows. The other person hears what is. Giving up the knowledge you've gained is not the same as forgetting. It's believing. Believe that being there is better than remembering. That level of clarity doesn't need a point of reference. What you're willing to let go of is what gives you freedom, not what you've learned. The mind says, "I'll go backwards if I forget this." But there is no way to go backwards on this road, not as deep, and getting more doesn't give you meaning. It comes from having less to hold, from being so empty that wisdom doesn't come to you, it lives inside you. Pay attention to how your mind wants to share ideas, what it wants to teach, prove, or explain. It's not wrong, but pay attention to the energy in it, the holding on, how self-important. That's the leftovers. That's where knowledge has become character. Being yourself, even your inner self, is just noise. Knowing something doesn't need to say anything. It doesn't have to persuade. It shows itself by being there, through the quiet that came before every move. That's the kind of knowledge that leaves you empty instead of full. That doesn't leave room for stories. You shouldn't stop reading, learning, or thinking about this. It means you let go of holding on. You let ideas drift away like clouds, much appreciated but not owned. It's fine if they come back. It's better if they don't. Because something that stays is real. What needs to be held on to is already dying. Even the lessons being taught right now, these words are not meant to be kept. They are not here to be framed. They are here to make a point, not to remember, but to open something. They lose their light as soon as they become something else you know. This is what Buddhists mean by non-abiding wisdom. That makes you move. Form doesn't depend on knowing that. A type of understanding that doesn't get harder. It whispers for a moment and then goes away. Like when the bell rings. The repeat is not the truth. The silence that follows is. That's why a lot of teachers in the past used puzzles. Why they said things that were at odds with each other. Not to make things unclear, but to keep the mind from creating a new idea. They knew that building up was dangerous. They knew that the mind could turn truth into ideology, how to turn theory into armor. But real freedom doesn't have any defense. It's smooth, not dressed, not full. Let go of even the best things you've learned, the ones who made you different, the ones who understood your pain. Let them break down, because the truth doesn't need a frame, not because they weren't true. It only needs room. The mind will fight back. That's fine. It will say, "But I worked hard for these insights." Let it be sad. After that, let it rest. Because you can't lose what's real, and things that can be lost were never meant to stay. While a thought is calm, it is not always full of ideas, a mind that doesn't need them anymore, a mind that doesn't bring anything with it into the present moment. Not having any ideas, you don't have to understand everything before you feel it. That kind of mind is Buddhism, not just something you do, not because it knows what to teach, but because it shows who they are. A spirit of giving up, of nothingness, being so free from the need to be right that the truth just comes. When the mind stops trying to hold on to knowledge like a possession, it loosens its grip on insight. Then something beautiful starts to show itself. Steps. Not the kind that is caused by thought or choice, and not the kind that is planned by mental strategy. This is a pure movement that comes from being still. This is the next doorway. Action without the thought, movement without mental noise, and life happening in the body without the mind getting in the way. This is what Zen calls the still mind that moves. It changes everything. There is more peace than just being quiet. It's the peace that stays the same whether you're talking, walking, cooking, or cleaning. It's not that the world is quiet. It's just that the noise inside you has stopped pretending to own everything you do. For years, monks train not to learn this, but to forget everything that gets in the way of it. The idea that you need to think in order to act, that you need to make plans to move, that you need to know what to do next before you do it. The body already knows, though. Life is already going on. To blink, you can't just think about it. You don't think about how to raise your hand. Things like this just happen. That's the important thing. It gets easier to do things when you stop thinking about them. Not mindless, but free of stress. Zen doesn't try to stop people from thinking or praise them for doing nothing. It shows you how to be present so much that you don't need to think. Attention shifts to being direct instead. The action is clean. You can focus on what you're doing without any thought chatter getting in the way. When you sweep the floor, the only thing that matters is the brush. There is only one step when you walk. You don't have to say, "I'm walking now," just walk. This makes life more interesting, not dull. Senses get stronger when thought fades. You start to feel how everything feels, how cool water feels on your hands, the way your breath changes as you move. Exactly what each step sounds like. This is not awareness as a practice. It's just living your life without any interruptions. It's what happens when the voice in your head stops talking. A lot of people think that thinking is what makes things doable, that choices can't be made without thinking about them. But that's just another thought. Every day, hundreds of moves happen before anyone thinks about them. You look at a sound with your head, you scratch an itch, you catch something as it falls. There was no voice inside planning those acts. They happened right now. That same intelligence, the one that makes those small, quick moves possible, can easily guide your whole life. Thought wants to own everything, though. It comes right after a move and tells you, "I did that." You believe it. However, what was being done was already done before the thought claimed it. The mind hasn't had a chance to enter yet because there's a gap, a moment of pure flow. Freedom lives in that space. Zen monks don't wash dishes to get them clean. They do it to clean. They eat just because they want to, not because they are full. Every act stands alone, not a way to get somewhere else, not a bothersome thing, not something on a list. It's just a full event happening right now. That's what a mind that is still can do. It's not a passivity, it is very involved, but not with noise. Even little things make a difference. If you think about something else while pouring water, it feels like a machine. But the movement is holy when the mind is still, not because of the water, but because you're not there, not having the me that always tells the story of everything, and that lack makes room. Thoughts move in that area. This doesn't mean you should never think. It means not thinking about things that aren't important. It means giving your mind a break when it doesn't need to be there. In this way, the mind is like a lake on a calm day. It is still, it thinks, and it is ready. Then, when something needs to be done, it comes up smoothly, like a pebble dropped in water. One swell, just one answer. Not too much. What's great about this is how useful it is. The calm mind doesn't freak out even when things are going crazy. It can see well. It moves very accurately. It's not lost in stories. It's not frozen in doubt. It's not acting like you're in charge. It does nothing, as if a skilled guitarist played a note without thinking about it. Her hands just knew how to do it. It's not magic. It's what the mind does when it's not scared of not knowing. After that, it won't have to explain each move to itself. When it knows that just being there is enough, that listening is better than making plans. It's stronger to be still than to think. Do this every day. The next time you go for a walk, don't listen to that voice in your head. Move the feet around. Relax and breathe. Not a story, no deep thoughts. Just take a step. Then take a look around. Are you still okay? Did everything fall apart when you stopped telling the story, or did it come to life? This is where Zen is more than just a way to meditate. It moves things that are still, not by going slower, but by getting rid of the one that's always going fast in your head. The real noise is that steady push to finish, be somewhere else, or do it better. And once that's gone, even the simplest action is finished. You don't need any extra training, no strange poses, just attention with no plans. You don't move to show off. You don't act to get things done. You just do it, because you are living life through yourself. Everything gets lighter when that is seen. Things don't feel as heavy. The boredom of chores goes away. Because no old thoughts are brought into each moment, it feels brand new. This makes the mind that is still the most useful mind. It's always clear, not because it's always quiet, not weighed down by yesterday, not making guesses about tomorrow. I am replying, of course, without any work. In Zen, things like tea gatherings, martial arts, and calligraphy are very important because of this. Not for the skill, but because they were there. The art is not in what you make, it's what you do. Meditation happens in the act itself, and for that practice, you only need silence inside yourself. You can't second-guess yourself when you act from silence. Certainly. Don't think too much. You're not choosing what to do, you're just letting it happen. It takes time to build that kind of trust. But easy things are the first step. Getting your hands clean, putting things away, getting food ready. When the person who did it is gone, the deed itself can become holy. And there is no judgment when mistakes are made, which they will be. Nothing was being proved by the ego. It was a pure move. The mind stayed open. Slip-ups are also part of the flow, not obstacles, just new waves in the present. It never runs out, which is the real gift of a mind that is still and moves. Because pressure isn't making it work. It's not forcing things to happen. It's not taking over life. It's moving with it. You don't need to know how to dance that one either. Just pay attention. When the time comes, move. Now that movement comes from silence instead of thought, and action doesn't need the mind to explain itself. Something deeper starts to show itself. It's something that lasts longer than thoughts, is more subtle than emotions, and is more convincing than any understanding. It's the voice that all sounds come from. The self, or the one who says I. Not the body, not being aware, not being present. The story of who I am. One person who is at the heart of all of our thoughts, plans, fears, and hopes. And as long as people believe in this number, their minds will stay full. It stays with you even when it's quiet. Even when it's quiet, it speaks. What about me? This is where noise comes from, the kind of mess that is easiest to hide. Every thought is based on the idea of I. I should do better. I feel bad. I'm getting it. And I'm failing again, are all different thoughts from the same author. There is always the same unspoken belief that someone is thinking them, owning them, and running the show. But that's just a trick. Not just the thought itself, but also the person who has it. The ego isn't a bad thing. It's not a threat. It's what they do. A pattern of putting everything around a central point. That center turns into the point of reference for everything. Things that happen to me are either good or bad, better or worse than me. This self cuts through everything, even quiet. I feel still, or I feel calm. But what if the calm wasn't yours? What if there was no one to own the stillness? The mind folds in on itself to make the self. It comes up with a character named me and writes a full-time story for that character. There are times when the story is sure of itself, times when it's not, spiritual times when it's broken. But the heart stays the same, I. It's tiring. Since the story keeps going, it includes even happiness. Now I'm happy. I hope it stays. I need to keep it safe. There's really no need for a center. Life doesn't need a storyteller. Thoughts don't need a name tag. Feelings do not need a spokesman. Everything else gets lighter when the sense of self goes away. Not because your life changes, but because you no longer have to constantly think of everything as mine. When you forget yourself, you don't forget your name or your past. It means giving up the need to keep going back to a personal identity. It means giving up the idea that everything has to circle around a point called me. Thoughts will still come even without that point. Feelings are still rising. Things are still happening. They don't move through people, though. They move through space. They don't belong to anyone. They are not protected. They've been seen, felt, and done. This is why ancient beliefs said that being selfless was not a moral thing to do, but a way to be free. For as long as there is a self, there is worry. People are afraid of losing. The fear of failing, fear of not being seen. It's not because those things are real, but because of the I. The self needs to defend its past and its future. It can't hold on without those. The self is not bad in Buddhism. It says that the self is nothing. Nothing solid, stable, or real can be found in it. But the mind doesn't like being empty. It gives it stories. It keeps attaching I to every event. All of those things are just thoughts. I'm getting better. I've fallen back, and I need more time. Not the truth, not proof of a strong self. When you forget about yourself, life is at its most peaceful, not as an act, but as an effect. As you watch the sun go down, having fun with someone, being kind to a stranger, making something, the I goes away at those times. There are no comments, not aware of oneself, just get knowledge, just living. And then thought comes back and says, I really liked that. But you weren't there, not the person you think you are, just being aware, just being there. Not being able to remember is not disconnection. It's not a lack of presence. It's the most present kind of presence. The I is the last thing that is distracting, the most effective trick. It opens up the mind when it's gone. It makes the heart soft. The experience becomes clear. All of it doesn't belong to anyone. The self keeps coming up because thought needs something to think about. That's how language is made. I feel, I think, and I want are all correct grammar. But what they really mean is feeling, just moving, just a thought, not owning anything, not having a center. That's where the peace is, not in what you have, but in not having it. Thoughts aren't enough for ego to live. It lives off of attention. If you believe a thought about me, the self gets stronger. If someone questions it, or better yet, if it's not picked up at all, it goes away. Not a big deal, as it melts slowly, like fog in the morning. Try to catch it, taking note of when the self shows up, not just in plain sight ways, but also in more subtle ones. I'm not doing this right. I get it now, and I've lost my temper. All sound like they're not harmful. Each one, though, supports a core that doesn't exist. The mind keeps going around a ghost, which makes the ghost feel more real the more it goes around. The body can forget, though. The self goes away when you're deeply involved. Flow states don't happen when the self is there. They happen when the self steps away. It's not possible to act, show, or make inner comments. We only need direct knowledge, clean, pure, selfless. The best part is that forgetting doesn't take any work. It needs surrender, giving up the need to be someone, letting things pass through you without taking it back. Let ideas go by without asking yourself what they mean. Silence should be heard without being turned into an accomplishment. A lot of people are scared of this. I will become passive if I forget who I am. That's not what happens. Instead, I gain drive. There is more focus when you don't have to worry about yourself, without the noise of, how are you? There is more imagination. There's more love when no one has to hide their personality. The self puts limits on everything it does, not to hurt them, but because they are afraid. Don't kill the ego, the deepest beliefs say. Just stop giving it food. Allow it to be. It should go by like a ghost. Do not follow it. Just don't fight with it. Don't connect with it. Take a look at how often it puts I in the middle. Then take a better look. What does that I really mean? Are you able to find it? Are you able to hold it? Or is it just a shape in your mind? The whole building starts to fall apart when the search is over and the center is seen through. Not in an exciting way. To let go in peace. It's like letting go of a hand you didn't know you had. What's left is nothingness, but not in a scary way. It's emptiness as space, like peace without a guardian. Not wearing a mask. It's still too much to say, I am awareness. Being aware is enough. Not tailored to you, not possessed. Just be there. Open it up. The I doesn't add anything. It doesn't let any new light through. It's not possible to practice forgetting about yourself. Things like this happen when you stop trying to be someone. It's not a method, it's a falling away, a soft return to who you were before you learned to tell stories about your life. It's like coming home when you go back. The center of I is no longer the loudest word in the mind, and the self has started to fade. This makes it possible for action, attention, and silence to become one. This is where form turns into a way in, not something that gets in the way. It's not a technique or a show, it's giving up everything and being present. When the hands move without being owned, when beauty happens on its own without the artist. This is the world where there is no mind. In Zen, it's shown not only through silence, but also through movement, tea, and brush strokes. In this place, even art can lead to emptiness. Zen has its own way of dealing with shape. It doesn't expect you to be perfect. It asks that you be absent. That's not what a monk wants when they pick up the brush to start writing in calligraphy. They want their mind to be so still that the ink flows without any pushback. The paper doesn't get any decorations, it just gets to be there. If the mind gets in the way, the stroke shows doubt. The line is no longer powerful when the ego shows up. But when there is no one there and no thought, the mark comes to life. No mind isn't about getting rid of thinking. It's about getting rid of distractions. The kind of influence that checks out, judges, waits, or tries to manage. The body moves on its own after those layers are gone. The hand breathes with the breath. The action doesn't come from making a plan. It comes from being aware. The brush doesn't show who the artist is. It shows what's happening at the time. It's not possible to teach this kind of attitude. You have to feel it, not as a prerequisite, but as the ground itself. It needs deep silence, a soundless space that moves, a light presence that you can feel. Form turns into freedom when it comes together. It's simple to overlook how deep these habits go. Tea ceremony might look like a way to show kindness. It might look like fighting in martial arts. It may look like calligraphy is just for decoration. In Zen, though, these are not hobbies. They're cars and trucks. All of them are doors that take the practitioner directly, instantly, and totally out of their mind and into reality. The tea ceremony is a pointless event. Every move, like pouring water, moving the bowl, and handing over the cup, is done fully aware. Not to show off, not to make people happy. To be. It's not about the tea. The point is that the hand is not being led by thought at that time. The gesture is not based on any view. No one is making tea. It's just making tea. It's also interesting that the tea tastes better when no one is making it. Not because it's different, but because it doesn't interfere with anything else. The guest drinks silence. They get the presence that lived in every move, and just being there brings peace, not with words, by way of form. In martial arts, the same thing takes place. It's not about getting stronger, it's about getting empty. In order to let go of all obstacles, the body must move before the mind can think, as an instinct, not as a reaction that has been filtered. The master doesn't use math to fight. They move because things move. The enemy doesn't face a person, they face the lack of doubt, and that absence can't be stopped. This is what Zen keeps saying. If you want to do something, you need to have a mind that lets it happen. No mind is not a state of being passive. It works without any stress. It's aware and doesn't say anything, and the form comes to life when it meets it. In this way, calligraphy might be the most bare. One hit, one shot, not any changes. If the mind gets in the way, the brush shows it. The ink gets stiffer if the self shows up. But when quiet moves the hand, the line turns into pure energy. Not only does it look nice, but it also feels right. Not as a thought, but as a being. This kind of art isn't made by talented people. It comes from not having it. Because it is so still, the hand doesn't pause. The body turns into a channel because it is so open, so careless that the work doesn't belong to anyone anymore. That's what makes it strong, not how beautiful it is, but how empty it is. These days, being creative is a big part of who you are, as something that shows who you are. But in Zen, real art starts when the self goes away. If the work doesn't show who you are, it shows what is. It's not about feeling or wanting. The only thing that moves is silence, how silence looks. This way of doing things changes everything. It makes everything art. Not because of what happened, but because of who was there. A bowl that is washed turns into a picture. When you put down a cup, it turns into a sculpture. There is no need for art shows, no need for crowds. Right now, the moment is over, because it was lived to the fullest, without any breaks, not because someone is trying to be unique. No mind does not mean I don't care. It means not being in charge. Giving up the idea that you are doing anything is what it means. And when you give up, the most beautiful moves show up. It wasn't because they were planned, but because they were allowed to. That's why Zen masters often say things that don't make sense. Some people say, the brush paints itself, or the hand moves, but no one moves it. This sounds weird to me. It makes sense to the body, though. When thoughts don't get in the way, the body knows how to move. It knows what to do when there's no story to tell. Pick up a pen and try this. Do not plan. Do not think. Do not try to draw something nice. Move around. Allow the hand to lead the way. Take note of how quickly your mind wants to fix, tweak, or judge. Allow it to go. Move around. Don't think about things, just feel them. Don't think, just stay in beat. Let the shape come from the silence. Let it go when it's over. That's how things are done. Not to make the product better, but to get rid of the self. Not to watch yourself do something. To make something without naming it as their own. And you don't try to feel peace there. There's something that shows up in every movement. There is no stop doing in Zen. Instead, there is stop doing from the mind. Let silence move your hands. Let the feet move away from the quiet. Since no one is around to stop it, let art happen. Then you'll understand that the most beautiful actions are not the ones that are done correctly, but the ones that happen without anyone doing them. Slip-ups are all part of the dance. A drop of ink. The cup has a crack. A mistake with the form. Nothing takes away from the moment. Since there was nothing being held, there was no proof. A thought that doesn't hold on can never be let down, because no one saw it coming. It just replied. That's what makes Zen art unique. It doesn't matter what you make, it's about how you disappear while you're making it. The art is more alive when the artist is not there. The movement is stronger when the hand is quiet. That's where the mind empties, not through force, but through speech, by going so deep into form that no one can claim it, not by dodging it. The body can now show silence through movement, and actions don't have to be performed anymore. This means that the space around actions starts to glow with a quiet power. Life has a beat that most people don't notice. It's not just in what people do or say, but also in what they don't do or say. There is a pause in every chant. Every breath is a break. No matter how holy the mantra is, it always starts and finishes with silence. And the deepest quiet can be found in that space between sounds and beats. A lot of people pay attention to the phrase, the word, the shaking, the repeated parts. They think that the syllables hold the holy power. Yes, it does in many ways. Sounds can get in the way of thinking. It can keep your mind steady. It may help the mind move toward being present, but if you only listen to the sound, you might miss something. The thing that sound comes from and goes back to. Keep quiet. Chanting isn't a way to fill up time. It has to do with showing it. The wave is the theme. But what keeps the wave going? The sea. There is no break between the chants. The opening is there. If you don't try hard, your mind is still during that pause because it has nothing to hold on to. There's nothing else to say. There is no steady beat. There was nothing but stillness in the air, waiting to be discovered. Right now is a delicate time. A lot of people miss it. They move quickly to the next repeat because they don't want to slow down. But quiet is really what they're running from. Mind isn't sure what to do with it. It has no power over it. It doesn't make sense. It fills it up with more sound, with more of the same thing, with more work. But if you stop, if you wait, if you don't rush through that place, let it unfold, something will start to open up, being there that goes beyond repetition, a calm that you don't make but find. There is something in the space between the chants. It's full, being fully aware, peaceful. It was full of the same thing that made the song possible in the first place. It's not a break in practice, it's the point of practice. The motto is a helper. The place to go is the silence. This is something that Buddhist masters have always said, that the real thing about meditation is not what you do, but what you are aware of while you do it. In the same way, you can hear a bell, not just when it rings, but also when its sound fades. The mind can rest in that fading, that empty space. It stopped, not because it had to, but because it has nowhere else to go. Seeing the space between sounds changes everything when you practice mantras. All of a sudden, chanting is less about beat and more about giving up. It's no longer dead time during the pause. It comes to life, alive with a soft aura, feeling alive with the taste of something more than words. Look for that gap in the sound. Pay attention, with all of your body, not just your head. Let the last word go away. Let it go quiet. After that, stay there. Take your time with the next sound. Do not try to keep up the beat. Follow the silence. It will tell you when to start over. Being bored is not what you'll find there. Not just nothing. Clear, though. A soft awareness that doesn't say anything. It doesn't move. It knows, though. Looks around. It holds everything. That's the quiet time between the songs. There is no gap. It's not an absence, but present at a deep level. There is no need for this silence to wait for the next phrase. It's not a shift. It is finished. You would still be learning even if you didn't say another word, because the practice isn't being done over and over again now. It's in being aware, taking note without holding, resting without looking for. The mind quickly skips over this area because it's not interesting. You can't measure the sound, not a phrase to remember. It's powerful because there's nothing to do. The ego can't use it. It gives you no character, nothing but quiet. And that's scary for a mind that is hooked on doing things, but it's everything for a heart that's ready to rest. This rule is true even when you're not shouting. When people talk, there is space between the words. There is order in the steps you take when you walk. Between breathing out and breathing in, there is a natural still point. And there is quiet in all of these places. Not the kind of quiet that you have to deal with, but the kind that just is when nothing else is said or done. There's no need to avoid sound. To hear sound, you have to pay attention to the area around you. Mantra would not work without silence. Not a difference. There is no starting or end. There is no such thing as silence after singing. It comes from the womb. When you understand that, the phrase stops being the most important thing. The room turns into a teacher. It gets easier to chant from this place of awareness. That state is no longer your goal. Rest in the one that is already here. The words come and go like waves, and that silence feels more normal, believed in more, not something you look for anymore. But remember something. This change doesn't feel good to the mind. It wants to play a part. It needs to feel like it has something to do. But the greatest peace doesn't come from being successful. It comes from letting go. When it lets the silence between the chants be louder than the chants themselves. Allow yourself more time to rest between sets. Do not keep track of the time. Don't stress about getting lost. Don't move from the sound. Do not move. Stay still. Take a look at what the body does. The breath gets softer, the chest opens, the face gets smoother. The nervous system starts to remember how it worked before. One that takes their time, one that doesn't get scared. This place is good for you. It doesn't add anything, but it doesn't take anything away either. It keeps everything the same. Don't fix, don't chase, just being there. And in that holding, the strain eases. Thoughts get slower. Loss of identity. There is no way to get to nothingness. It holds you. This is where chant is more than just a sound. It turns into a bridge, a wave that leads to a calm shore. The wave isn't the end, though. When you get off the boat, the end comes. If you stop singing and just are. No, not as a method, not as a goal, but in a normal way. A lot of people chant for hours, but never come here. It's not that they can't, but that they never stop. There is always space, though. It doesn't take hours. It needs help. Being ready to pause. Being ready to listen to something that can't speak. There is a kind of death in the silence between prayers, a short break in the sound, a time without a name. Stick with it and don't rush through the next word or breath. You'll start to feel more than just calm. You'll feel like you're not there, not in a scary way, in a calm one. The chanter is no longer there. There is no longer anyone who sought results. What's left is easy. Be quiet. Waking up. This is why chant is more than just saying the same thing over and over. It has to do with rhythm. There is also rest in every beat. It's not music if you never stop it. It's noise. The beauty of chant is not in how loud it is, but in how well it fits together, in the middle of noise and quiet, on the edge of doing and being. Self and silence are in the middle. You're practicing more than just chant now that you can feel how rich these gaps are. You're practicing letting go, in charge of progress. Because every room needs to be filled, and letting go will affect every part of your life. You'll start to see breaks where you used to push. There will be silence where there was none before. The mind's last defense starts to show itself, movement for no reason. This happens when the space between sounds is touched and quiet is no longer something to fill, but something to enter. Not words, not plans, not even a strong desire. I'm just moving. It's like shaking water over and over again, so it never gets clear. It gets worse every time we try to fix it. Thoughts get fuzzy, the feelings get stronger, clarity goes away, but the content isn't the trouble, it's the continuous moving. What if that which is in the water can't be solved, and peace can only be found by not touching it? It's easy to understand the old image, a bowl of water with mud in it. Let the dirt settle if you don't move it. The water gets better. But if you stir it, even if you mean well, it stays cloudy. This is how the mind works when it's upset. Thoughts come up. We work to fix them. There are more thoughts. We think about it, we fight it, and we look for the cause. And no matter what you think, the water stays dark. It's not that clarity is far away, it's that silence hasn't been given time to do its job. Being still isn't a tool. That's the case. It doesn't need faith or work, just like gravity. It does its own thing. The mind doesn't believe that, though. It has always been taught to do something. The thing wants to help, even when it's in pain. It gets tighter. It thinks more. It wants to know more. But what if the mind can't do anything that will fix you? Not doing anything is not being passive. It's letting. It's the lack of being manipulated, the polite refusal to get involved. It's natural to act when your mind is stormy, to make things better, to take the mind off of it, to explain it. But every move makes a new wave. Every study adds a new hand to the bowl and stirs it. When the shaking stops, the real freedom starts. This is not a mind trick. The way you stand has changed. Don't meet thought with more thought. Meet it with room. Don't follow the story when you feel emotional. Do not try to find reason. Let it be and feel how heavy it is. Don't name the energy. Just stay with it. Just take a seat. Rest. Wait for the dust to settle. But this is dangerous, the mind may scream. It makes me feel like I'll drown. I'll be stuck forever. That's the fear of being still. But being still has never suffocated someone. Not the water itself that is too much, but the beating. The body floats after the fight is over. When the changing stops, the peace shows up, not as something extra, but as something that was hidden. Having thoughts is normal. They come like the wind. They go by like clouds. But the thought that they need your attention is what makes them heavy. The belief that every thought needs an answer, that every feeling needs a way to be dealt with. But that is just training. The truth doesn't need to be controlled. When space is given, it shows itself. This is why a lot of people get it wrong about meditation. Some people believe the goal is to stop thinking, to get rid of a distraction. But the right thing to do is to stop getting in the way, to not try to make a dam and let the river flow, to wait by the stream and not jump in to change the flow. Try this. The next time your thought is foggy, don't try to get it clear. Do not try to find answers. Take a seat, close your eyes, feel how restless you are. Don't move either, not in the mind or the body. Don't argue with what's going on. Don't think about it. Just be with it, like being quiet with a friend. Let your thoughts go around. Do not hold back your emotions, but don't move. The mind will fight at first. It will beg you to move on. It will say, in a hurry. That being said, something starts to move if you don't follow. The shaking stops being strong, not because you fixed it, but because you stopped giving it food. The mind starts to clear slowly, like dirt falling to the bottom of a lake. This is not a one-time thing. It's how you live. A way of thinking about thought that doesn't see it as something to beat, but as something that goes by. Trouble is not a flaw. That's what happens when you don't give quiet a chance to work. It's already there to heal, but it will only happen if you don't get in the way. This is true even in everyday life. People react quickly when someone says something that makes them feel bad. A story starts to take shape. A defense grows. But clarity comes back if you pause, if you let the answer go by without grabbing it. Since you already knew the answer. You didn't add to the wave, though. Clarity is not something that can be made. It's been shown. It's more obvious that silence is smart when you give it more room. It goes deeper than reasoning, too. It can't be put into words. It comes without a fight. Not peace as an idea, but peace as the lack of trouble. The Buddha meant this: a mind that doesn't control itself, but one that doesn't get in the way of its own progress either. A mind that believes it is still, that knows silence isn't the absence of something, but the present of everything that doesn't need to be managed. A new kind of confidence grows as you start to live this way. Not because they know what to do. When you know you don't need to do anything, though. That life goes on. That feeling goes away. That confusion is gone. When given the room, it can do it all by itself. This is not giving up. It's smart. Deep down, you know that your mind doesn't always need help. That peace isn't just around the corner. It's under there, always ready, always there for you. Just take one deep breath, stop, and do nothing for a moment. Peace is no longer something that is being sought after, but something that has been found. Now that the muddy water of thought has started to settle, a deeper layer of noise is rising to the surface. It's not words or feelings, but the weight of what was, the past. As a story that is always being told, not as an event. It keeps coming back to haunt us in the way we see ourselves, in the quiet times of our minds, and in the choices we make every day. Memory does more than keep things, it also connects them. And the mind can't be fully empty as long as those chains are still there. Where the past is still being told over and over, silence can't last. The mind thinks that identity is memory. It connects everything to what came before. This is what I did. This is what took place. This is what I am. And it feels safe to say those things. They give things shape. But they build walls too. When your mind is full of old stories, you can't see straight. It puts old meanings through every new moment. It brings the past into the present and calls it truth. But it's not true. It's leftovers. Buddhism says that holding on to things makes you suffer. One of the most intense ways to hold on is to memories, not to people or things. Not to what really happened, but to the story that keeps playing over and over in your head. The event is over. But the movie in my head never stops. The scenes play over and over. People keep having the same thoughts. The same blame is put on them. Peace is getting farther away with each play. Forgetting something doesn't mean letting go of a memory. It means letting go of something. It means not adding to the story, but letting it fade. Holding on to the past is what hurts you, not the past itself. That's what it means. The idea that what happened makes you who you are. But events that happened in the past can't change what is permanent. And your knowledge will always be there. The past is only remembered. Thoughts have nowhere to live when there is no thought. This doesn't mean you don't believe what happened. We all go through pain, loss, and making mistakes, but you don't have to carry them. They don't need to be a part of identity. They don't need to be kept alive by repeating things over and over in your mind. There was real pain, but suffering happens when pain turns into a story that never stops. Seeing the trend is the first step to letting go. Watch how your mind goes back to old events. Look at how it brings up talks that happened a long time ago, how it judges you for things you didn't know at the time. What it does to punish you for being human. There's no way to stop these feelings. They only stay living, though, because people believe them. You don't need to fight the past. All you have to do is let go of it. Let a memory come up when it does. Do not follow. Don't fight back. Let it look like a bubble in water, then let it pop. Don't grab it. There's no need to explain it. Allow it to pass. Memory isn't a problem when someone doesn't have it. This is what Buddhist letting go practice teaches. To free from memory, not by force, but by making room for it. Stay in the moment when the memory comes back. Stay in the feeling. Feel the body. Take a deep breath. Let the thought go away like the wind. Don't connect. Do not respond. Come back to now, because there is no other time that can bring peace. You can't change the past, but how you feel about it can be. And it doesn't hurt you when you stop connecting with it. It gets softer in the voice that used to say, "I was hurt." Up until it says nothing more. It just goes away, and the noise goes away with it. You don't have to delete your story. In other words, you stop living there. Like an old book on a shelf, the experience can stay in the background, but you don't have to open it anymore. It doesn't need to be read again. The shelf is still there, but no one is reaching for the books. Most of the noise in the mind comes from trying to hold on to the past, to keep it safe, to explain it, to see if it's fair. However, fairness does not heal. Being there does. It's not completion that the nervous system needs, it's space. Stillness is stronger than making a choice. There's no need to change the story. Stop reading it over and over again. This hurts the ego. It says, but this did happen. It's important, and it did happen. Yes, it changed you. It's not you, though. You're not what took place. It was your awareness that saw it. The area it went through. That room is still here, not touched, not hurt. Be quiet. When memories aren't talked about, even the worst ones start to feel better. It's not because the pain goes away, but because the holding on does. The pain might still come back, but it moves like the wind when there is no story. It comes by, it goes away, and it doesn't hurt afterwards. Try this. Don't brace yourself when a painful experience comes back. Do not think. Take deep breaths. Feel how heavy it is in your body. Don't focus on the pictures or the words. Focus on the energy instead. Remember something as a feeling, not as a fact. Do not ask why it is here. Do not try to fix it. Don't worry about it. This is what it means to unbind, getting rid of, not putting down, just shutting down the fuel. If you stop giving your mind a reason to repeat, it will stop. It goes out by itself, like a spark that doesn't have any air in it. Things that used to feel heavy start to fall apart over time. Things that used to hurt to remember aren't as painful anymore. It's not because you worked hard to heal them, but because you let them go. The past clears up when you leave it alone, just like muddy water, and quiet grows where it used to be. Not just silence, alive and quiet. A silence that pays attention, that keeps you. That doesn't need any stories, just being there. The real gift of letting go is not being free from memories, but being free from tags. Stop being the one who went through pain. You go back to the person who saw everything and wasn't hurt. The mind feels more open in a new way now that the past is less limiting and memories are not seen as a part of who we are. But something keeps moving even here. Thought. Not scary or loud, just steady. Sharing thoughts in secret. Drawing conclusions. Bringing up fears. Minds are full not because they have thoughts, but because they believe they do. The deal without any work. The yes we give to every thought without thinking about it. What if, though, words were never meant to be believed? What if they're just images, like clouds, floating through our minds, and not facts we need to follow? The truth is, the mind produces thoughts the way the body produces breath. They get up without being told to. They show up without any work. This is something that most people never question. They think that a thought must have some meaning if it shows up. It has to be important. But most of the thoughts we have are not important. They sound like echoes, leaves behind, mental responses that have been trained over many years of use. You don't have to believe them either. They only need to be seen. It's not clear what belief is. It does it on its own. Your body tightens up before you even know it. The thought comes to you, "I'm not doing enough." You take less breath. Your chest gets tight. Not because of the thought, but because you thought it was true, without a fight, without being aware. That belief turned into pain, not the idea. Everything changes when you watch a thought without following it. It doesn't need to be pushed down. There's no need to fight. It needs a change in the bond. You stop taking part and become a witness. You watch without doing anything, while not agreeing, not by making more noise. This has always been an important part of Buddhist practice, that freedom doesn't come from having perfect thoughts. It comes from seeing them for what they are, thoughts, not the truth, nothing to show. Instructions are not, just thoughts that come and go, like air coming in through a window that's open. The window doesn't need to be shut. Please stop following the wind. You don't have to try to shut down your mind. It means you should stop taking its noise as direction. The mind can talk. It can even scream. But it stops being powerful when you don't nod along with every word. When you see the thought, you can choose not to go with it. It takes work to do this, because believing is an old habit. A thought about failing feels like who you are. A judgment sounds like the truth. You start to see the gap, though, if you stick with it and wait to answer. That time when you think but don't believe. Freedom lives in that space. Try this. Whenever you have a thought, name it in your mind. Not what it says, but what it falls under. This makes room for planning, judging, and worrying. It helps you remember that the thought is just a type and not the truth. After that, let it go. The same way you notice a car go by. You saw it. You were not let in. You will live differently after learning this skill. You stop responding to every thought that comes to mind and start making choices. Not from being in charge, but from being aware. Not because you were smarter than your mind, but because you stopped believing everything it told you. Feelings are often in our thoughts. They don't respect me, and I'm not enough. Hurt because people believe them. It's not the thought that hurts. It's written in the deal, the yes that comes automatically and turns thought into pain. Thoughts become light when you stay rooted in awareness. Not heavy, not dangerous. It just floats by. It doesn't hold. It doesn't stay. Thoughts that hurt start to go away. Not because they were solved, but because they weren't kept. Brains are quieter when you don't believe what they say. Not by force, but by lack of attention. The thoughts might still come up, but they don't grow if they don't believe. They don't need care. They just go up, down, flicker, and rise again. This is where the feeling of inner space starts. To not have any thoughts, not to not care about them. There is no link, no proof of identity. Thoughts turn into weather, and you're the sky. Not touched, never ending. Okay, the mind will test this sometimes. There will be a strong thought. This needs to be done right away. This can't wait. And the body will tighten up again. That's what faith does. But wait. Hold on. Is this true? Not as a mantra, but as a real check. Is it true, or is it just a person I know? A lot of thoughts are already out there. They are reused, many thousands of times. Still, they feel different every time, since people believe them again. You lose faith when you start to see the trend, though. You become aware of the thought without giving in to it. Ah, that old fear again. That story of not being enough. You let it go, not with much work, but with room. The mind doesn't need to be shut down to get out of its echo. Thoughts will get stronger. Let them. Thoughts will be heard. Listen to them. Don't answer, though. Do not argue. Do not grab. Allow the show to run without taking part in it. This is where real peace grows. This kind of stillness doesn't happen because there is no thought, but because there is no idea. You no longer mix up thought noise with the truth. You don't look for shadows anymore. You sit down. You see, you're still open. When you're open, life changes. Not in a big way, not too loud, but not rough. You need to stop responding to every feeling. Stop defending every point of view. You should stop performing for every possible crowd. Because the voice that told them to do all that, it was only a thought, and people no longer believe it. The mind starts to calm down over time, not because it was controlled, but because nothing moved when it hit it. Thought starts to value room. It doesn't push as tough. The scream isn't as loud, because attention is no longer given to it. And when it does push, when the thoughts are too much, you remember what's true. That thought is not you, that you don't have to believe. Being aware doesn't need to be explained. It only sees. And seeing without believing is freedom. As the mind starts to loosen its grip on internal dialogue and the thought no longer needs to be believed, a new layer of tension slowly surfaces. It's less visible and more subtle, but it's just as binding. The need to do it right, the urge that you can't see to be spiritual, calm, and focused enough. It's not loud. It puts on the face of being honest. It hides behind rules and training. But fear is what's really there. Not because they failed, but because they were not perfect at the one thing that was meant to bring peace. And that fear turns into the noise that the practice was meant to get rid of when it is not seen. This is the strange thing. The mind goes on a journey to be still, but somewhere along the way, it turns the journey into a show. It's a test to meditate. Silence turns into a standard. It turns insight into a prize. The mind bows and asks quietly, "Am I doing this right?" When asked over and over in different ways, that question becomes its own source of stress. A type of spiritual striving that never lets the heart rest. This trend is known in Buddhism. It's talked about without passing judgment, but with kindness, because pain makes us want to get it right. When you want to be free, you become hungry to act free. The ego comes back in, dressed in robes, chanting chants, and sitting still. Behind the stance, though, there is a pulling in, a fear that says, "I'll never be free if I don't do this right." But success does not bring peace. It comes through giving up, by making things soft, by giving up the need to get better all the time. Emptiness can't be made by the mind. Being good won't help it reach stillness. When you stop trying, stillness shows up. This doesn't mean that practice isn't important. It means that the state of mind during practice is more important than how the practice is set up. You can be still for hours and still get lost in the noise of people trying to get somewhere. You can also sit with your back arched and your breath shaky and fall into presence since you're not acting. It's easy to fall into the mistake of getting it right. In the way you move, in the way you talk, when you think about it. It doesn't matter how you let go. Everything is turned into a list in the mind, somehow, for a game. There is no such thing as a perfect breath, though. There is no right mantra, no perfect waking up. Now is the only time. And once the present moment is no longer being judged, something real starts to happen. That realness doesn't seem very amazing. It's not noisy, messy. Sometimes I get upset. It can be difficult, but it's true. And when you're honest, your mind stops acting. The heart starts to beat, not to a made-up dream, but to what is right now. No matter how spiritual you try to be, you are still trying to be someone. It's still work that has to do with identity. And identity is what makes our minds noisy. Having to be a certain way, even if it's just calm, adds stress. And stress makes you think more. That is, the tighter you grip, the better you try to sit, and the silence seems farther away as the grip gets tighter. Surrendering does not mean shutting up. Giving up the idea of the perfect practitioner is what it means. Giving up on the story of progress. The false idea that awareness is a good state of being. Freedom that lasts isn't shiny, it's easy. This is normal. Thoughts miss it because they are too busy trying to be somewhere else. Stopping getting better is one of the most free things you can do. For trust's sake, not because they are lazy. Have faith that you are held. We are already aware of that you don't need to earn peace. Just stop looking for it like it's a prize. How we judge our own thoughts is another way that the need to get it right shows up. I shouldn't be thinking this, or I should be less attached, are not the problems. It's the thought itself that is. This is the verdict. It makes things even more tense. Another layer of defense. Resistance is also just noise. When you stop judging the moment, it gets softer. It does not get better. It starts to open. And being open is what lets the silence come back. Not because you made it happen, but because you stopped getting in the way. It's just a thought that, I'm not doing this right. There's no need to solve it. It doesn't need to be fixed. It only needs to be seen. Then let go. The same as every other cloud in the sky. Allow it to go. The same is true for feelings. A lot of people think that to be spiritual, you have to be calm. But it's not always possible to be cool. The body gets tense sometimes. Hearts are heavy sometimes. And acting like something isn't true is also dangerous. Real practice lets the storm happen. It doesn't shut down. It's not fixed. It stays there, even with all the noise. This is how quiet can be used for any reason. Doesn't depend on mood. Nothing to do with actions. It's the kind of silence that lets you be sad and still be free, because it doesn't want to change how sad it is. The point is not to make it religious. It's just right here. Being in that state of mind helps the mind slowly learn something new. Being that still isn't the point. It's the norm. A place to go back to when it's done, making improvements all the time. Every thought, every badge of achievement. The goal is not progress. There is peace. People often find happiness by giving up the idea that they need to move at all, not by taking steps forward. From stress to rest is the only trip. From acting to being there. From being in charge to giving up. What should you do next time you meditate? Drop the plan. Don't try to pay attention. Do not try to stay still. Just take a seat. Allow the body to breathe. Don't think about it anymore. Feel the feelings as they come and go. Don't fix anything. Just watch what happens when you stop trying so hard. You might find that the quiet was always there, even when you were trying to make it happen. Being this way is not lazy. It's very much living. It doesn't give up care. It just gives up power. Practice doesn't stop. It gets better. Now, the practice isn't about getting better. It's about being honest. It's about going to the event without a mask, not having the show. If a practitioner tries too hard to get it right, they will fall off the road. But as soon as they stop trying, they return to it. They didn't think of a road, but the one they came across, the one that has been there all along. Peaceful, not moving. Hold on. more of a soft awareness starts to take over now that there is less of a need to get it right, and practice isn't being thought of as a test to be passed, one that doesn't try to make progress or find calm, one that doesn't ask, "Am I doing this right?" but instead quietly takes in what is already there. And breath is already here, under all of your efforts and every moment of giving up. It's not just the rise and fall, not just the breathing in and out. There was something even quieter, the space between them, that short, natural pause that we often don't pay attention to is one of the most important ways that our bodies can help us be still. The body doesn't do anything between when you breathe out and when you breathe in again. Stillness. It's not forced. It's not exciting. It's very quiet, so it's simple to miss. Everything stops in that spot, though. There's nothing to do. Not in charge, nothing but quiet. The mind can also rest when there is peace and quiet. You can't shut down, but by not being wanted. Right now is a perfect moment. It doesn't hold any desire, not a fight. It's not about holding your breath or making it longer. That would be getting in the way. It's about noticing what's going on right now, without you even realizing it. There has always been a pause, but the mind doesn't start to notice it until it calms down. Something changes when it does, because there is no personality in that pause, not a thought, not a part to play, just being there and sleeping. This is taught by the breath alone, without words. Take a deep breath in, let out your breath. But why the pause? The pause goes past both of them. It's not coming in or leaving. It's space. A soft, short, holy silence. Also, the mind remembers that it used to be open and still, not noisy or chaotic, the more it learns to rest in that silence. No one can make you become aware of this. You can't find the stop if you try to. It gets tighter when you try to stretch it. You don't need to record it. Feel it is all you need. Just wait when you let out your breath. Let the next breath in happen on its own. Do not grab it. Don't lead it. It should come when it's time. Feel what's left in that small place where nothing is happening while you wait. Being still is not the same as being empty in a cold way. It's warm, good for you. It's the first quiet before the breath, before the body, and before the mind began to name everything. It gives a deep kind of rest because it comes without any work, the kind that you can't get from thinking, the kind that tries only make things worse. Many people look for peace in the things they can do, what they can change. But doing things isn't where you'll find true peace. To find it, look at the things that don't need to change. There is no need to improve the pause between breaths. It's already great. It's full already. It does not work. It just exists. It's only when you rest there, even for a moment, that you realize how little your mind needs to do to be at peace. Over time, awareness starts to automatically settle into that space. But not as a move, but as a comeback. Without even trying, you find yourself resting when you don't have to breathe. It turns into a habit, not of being in charge, but of being there. It gets quieter and calmer, not because the mind is thinking less, but because it has more room to hold everything. The mind stops being a boss and turns into a mirror in this place. It stops trying to change reality and starts just showing it. The breath keeps going. The body moves. Still, thoughts come and go, but you're not caught. You are the silence that comes after taking a breath, the empty area after the pause, the awareness that sees without having to name it. This also changes how the rest of the breath feels. It gets softer to breathe in, more fully exhale, since you're not moving them one after the other anymore. You're letting them happen. The breath stops being just a body function and starts being a peaceful beat, letting go in a circle, a path that leads you back to silence over and over. It's important to know that this silence wasn't added. It's been shown. It's not made by the breath. It shows it up, like when the tide goes out and the ocean floor is still. That floor was there all the time, but we can only see it clearly when the waves stop. Everything starts to take on that clarity, not just while meditating, but also while walking, talking, and listening. You begin to notice breaks in your thinking, in between words, in between times. Every one of them turns into a call to be still, not to do more. There is a lot of noise in the world, but it needs breaks badly to make room for times when you don't need to say anything. There is no need to explain anything. The pause in your breath is your teacher here. That proves quiet isn't a bad thing. It's a return. A house that was never gone, but was hidden by noise. This is why the break is so important. Not because it's long or exciting, but it's true. It's not changed. You are not your story at that time. You're not your plans. You're not your worries. You're just here, alive, alert, and free from the mind's control. Rest there more often, not by force, but because they asked. Feel what's left behind when you let out your breath. Do not rush to breathe in. Hold on. Believe. Allow the breath to come back on its own. Feel the ground that never left you while it does. Notice how there is nothing missing in that pause. You may begin to understand that peace is not something you can feel. It's the setting, one that is always there and is most easily seen when nothing is going on. In the empty place between things. There is no pause between breaths. It is where the breath comes from. It's quiet. It's spirit. Now that the mind is more at ease in the time between breaths and silence can be felt naturally, it's easier to pick up on the background noise that keeps coming back, even when there is silence. Not too loud, not a mess, but steady. The voice inside, that constant, quiet voice in the mind that names every moment, rates every emotion, and explains every detail. It talks to you while you eat. It talks to you while you're relaxing. It whispers even when there is silence. It keeps going because no one ever questions its power. That voice is not the self, though. It's not true. It's a habit. It's clear to see. When it's easy to see, it can be quiet. One of the last masks of mental connection is the inner narrator. It does not sound hostile. It seems useful, not guilty, even smart. Now is a good time. That thought wasn't necessary, and you're getting better. But they're all just comments. It's all just noise. It's not what it says that's wrong. It's that it says anything at all. This is what Buddhism says right out loud, which means that the mind's need to explain is itself a kind of pain. Not terrible pain, small. There is stress in the background that keeps you from fully settling into the present moment. The storyteller keeps talking about the quiet even when nothing is happening. It keeps putting a self in the way of experience and understanding. The mind can't be empty as long as there is a self. It's not time to judge the storyteller. It's about knowing what it's for. The mind tells stories because it thinks it needs to. It thinks that life needs to be labeled, known, and interpreted. What if, though, none of that does anything? What if there is no need to explain life in its most basic form? What if the sky doesn't need to be called blue, the feeling doesn't need to be called calm, and the silence doesn't need to be explained? To calm the narrator, you must first be aware of it, taking note of how quickly it comments on everything, what it tells you about your breath, what it thinks of your work, how it can make even silence into a story. This is good. Keep going, or you've lost it. Try again. That's not being aware. That's just thinking that looks like understanding. To break this habit, don't fight the person telling the story. Fighting is still an action. Still have faith. Just pay attention to the talk and move on. Do not answer. Just don't fight with it. Let it talk, then let it go. Like radio playing in the background when you're not paying attention. The narrator eventually runs out of energy. It talks, but nothing comes out. After that, it stops. Not because you shut it down, but because you stopped giving it fuel. Suppression doesn't lead to silence. It comes from not being interested, from giving up the idea that commentary is important. Listen for a moment without thinking about what you're hearing. Taking note of sound without describing it. Feeling the body without putting a name on it. Let the event be real, not split up. Do not try to explain how the world can touch you. This is not nothingness, it's presence. The filter of perception is taken away, and this is what happens. The narrator often comes back by changing their name. The ego is pulling the strings when it says things like, "I'm doing well," or "I should be further along." By making it personal, it keeps the commentary fresh. But as soon as you stop thinking that the remark is about a real self, it starts to fall apart. Because it doesn't have a hook, not anyone to talk to. One very helpful thing you can do is sit with sound. Let it go up and down without calling it anything, whether it's a bird, a truck, or a breath. Let them all go by like waves, not things. There's no story, no proof of identity. There are only waves of feeling. That's a dog barking. The narrator tries to step in. Pay attention to it and let it go. You don't have to say what you hear in order to understand it. The same is true for feelings. Feel sad without calling it that. Don't explain what it means. Do not measure how deep it is. Don't change how you feel. Raise it up. Allow it to hit the ground. When you name something, you make space between it and you. The storyteller doesn't play a part if you stick to the raw feeling, though. This is what makes the method so strong. You're not taking anything away. There are no longer any words between you and the moment. The world is no longer being cut up by you. The mind stops talking because it is one with everything else. It's not because it was pushed to or anything. When the story stops being told, something surprising shows up, almost like being close. You start to feel what life is like without padding. The sound is clearer. It's not as bright. I can breathe better. It doesn't feel less real. It feels more real, not because the world has changed, but because you can finally meet it without any words. It might feel strange at first. It's strange to be quiet. My mind is empty. "Something is wrong," says the announcer. "Just one more thing to say. This is too quiet. Give it up. Do not be afraid of the quiet. Allow it to grow. Let it show you what's really going on inside your head. Freedom, not just silence. No, not silence, but peace." Buddhism has methods that can help with this. The second arrow is being seen. What you feel, or your raw experience, is shown by the first line. The second part is the story the person telling it tells. "That hurt. I shouldn't feel this way." Let go of the second arrow. Hold on to the first one. Not a study, not a response, just a feeling. One more way is to use breaks in your daily life. Take a break between tasks. Take deep breaths. Pay attention to the time before the mind talks. Take a break there. Make that gap bigger. Let it happen on its own. A new beat, where storytelling stops being important and being present takes its place. The point is not to lose all thought. It means to break free, so that you can think and feel without putting them into a story, not in a way that makes it about you, without using it to make the experience look better. Life doesn't need a storyteller. It only needs to be known. And be gentle with the story when it comes back, which it will. Do not scold it. Do not hold on to it. Say, "That's it," and walk away. It's like seeing an old habit pass by. You know them, but you're not in charge anymore, not wanted any longer. Now the mind starts to settle down into something more profound. The world is no longer put together with words. It no longer describes everything we feel. It does nothing, not when it's empty, but in being there, in being. The mind starts to enjoy a silence that doesn't depend on understanding, now that the inner critic has stopped talking, and the need to make sense of every experience has been seen for what it is, a reaction. But something is still there, a less strong desire, need for something to mean, not too loud, not too much, but there all the time in the background. It's like every breath, stop, and moment has to make sense, needs to be useful, need a reason. That small need turns into a weight. It makes life a search. Silence feels like nothing when it's there, but quiet is full, not empty. A moment doesn't have to be holy if it doesn't mean anything. The mind needs meaning all the time. It tries to get something of value from everything, to move forward even when things are still, so that rest can lead to understanding. It turns even spiritual exercise into a project. What did this teach me? What's the real truth behind this? How does this help me get better? But if you ask these questions over and over, they become noise. Because some things don't need to teach. Not everything needs to be useful. Sometimes are complete just because they are. The thinking mind finds this hard to accept. It thinks that life should be a set of steps. Each step needs to end somewhere. But being present isn't a ladder. It's the ground. It's not a failure to stand still on that ground. It's freedom. The feel of wind on your skin doesn't have to be exciting. It's not necessary to take deep breaths. A pause doesn't need to be taught. The mind finds peace when it stops looking for meaning. This is not because something new was found, but because something old was let go. This is what the teachings mean when they talk about holy uselessness. A state where the moment can be what it is without having to explain, improve, or make something else. The heart starts to calm down in this place. It stops measuring in the mind. The present is now a home, not a tool. Buddhism doesn't say that life has to be useful all the time. In fact, it doesn't point that way. That the most important facts show up when we stop looking for them. That peace is most healing when we don't have to achieve anything. Meditation is a holy act that doesn't do anything useful. You sit down, you take deep breaths. There's no need for anything to happen, and that it's not enough. The need to understand everything makes it hard to focus, because it's not always possible to understand. A lot of feelings don't have names. Sometimes are hard to explain. Some things that happen don't teach us anything. And trying to make sense of things that don't have any only breaks the silence. But quiet doesn't need to say anything. It doesn't need to prove itself. You don't have to get anything in return. It gives just by being. Why is this here? Stopped going through your thoughts. It starts to rest in what's here. And this is always enough. This change is quiet but strong. The everyday becomes holy through it, because it's seen without any other things getting in the way. A tree isn't just a figure of speech anymore. It's just a tree. No longer does the sound of rain mean anything, it only sounds good. And that honesty touches something deeper. It's not knowing, not smarts, but being there. If you let go of meaning, your mind will find simple more. Simple things are where peace lives, not in the answers. But since there was no question, not at all in understanding, but in being free from having to understand. Try going for a walk without translating. Just take one step at a time. Do not think about what it means. Do not try to understand. Feel the beat, the touch of the ground. Let the walk have no point. Notice how the mind calms when there is no point, how the breath gets longer, how the need to get somewhere goes away. This isn't about giving up all purpose. It means letting it come when it wants to, not when you want it to. You can't force real meaning to happen. It comes up easily, like a breeze, like being happy. It shows up when there is empty room, not when the mind is stuck. There is pressure to make every word count, even when you are just talking to someone. But when you talk without trying to say something important, your heart starts to speak. When you just listen without trying to figure out what they're saying, they become more than their words. They start to be there. And being there always means more than saying something. Getting clear in a different way means letting go of this need, the kind that doesn't fix problems, but rather ignores them. Because once you stop trying to get value, you start to see value in what is already there. Why sitting with nothing is valuable. How much a moment that doesn't move is worth. This is the worth of just being here for no reason. This is holy because it takes you back to something that can't be measured. Not everything must lead to something. Thoughts don't have to come with every breath. There are times when the most peaceful experience is the one that doesn't teach you anything or change you. Nothing but space. That's where healing takes place. Not because something was fixed, but because there was no longer a need to fix it. The nervous system stops getting ready. Minds stop going around in circles. The heart stops beating. You are left with present in the end. Peaceful, not assuming, whole. People don't learn this from the world. Value is taught by the world through usefulness. Worth by making a difference. Even taking a break must be useful. But the Dharma makes a different point. It refers to the lotus flower that grows in still water, to the breath that just flows, to the silence that gives everything by not giving anything. Feel free to taste that now. Take a seat. Take deep breaths. Let the moment come without sending a message. Don't put any thought into it, not having any meaning. Progress free. Feel what opens up in that freedom. A place where there is no longer any need for meaning, where you aren't looking for anything anymore. Just being there. Just being aware, right now. And when the mind comes back with questions like, "Why did you do that? What did I get out of it?" Give a small smile. Allow the questions to go by. Let's not touch the moment. Let it rest in the holy fact that it is useless. These are some of the most beautiful times in life, the ones that don't teach, change, or get better. They are what they are. Let them be what they are, without trying to change them or find meaning in them. Then you can see that peace has always been there. It's only been hidden by your efforts to explain it. Now that the need to find meaning in every breath has gone away, and the heart has learned to rest in times that don't teach anything, another kind of inner noise starts to become more noticeable. A normal mental habit that most people don't even notice. The verdict. Not harsh criticism. It's not loud criticism. But the quiet, constant urge to form views, the mental process of always judging everything as good or bad, better or worse, useful or useless. This careful review follows each step, sound, and thought. It shows up as awareness, wisdom, and even discernment. But it's just noise. And all that noise keeps the mind from being still. The mind that judges quickly. It waits not to act. It responds right away. Almost right. Too loud. Too slow. Not enough. And too much. It moves like a shadow, following every event. It talks about how hot or cold the room is, how someone looks, or how your breath feels today. And every thought, no matter how weak, makes the mind get smaller. It goes from being to evaluating. The silence that was starting to grow is broken by that action. This is something that is made clear in Buddhist teaching. To cling to views is one of the subtlest ways to hold on, not to things, not to people, not even to memories. To the idea that what the mind says is true, that it's important, that you have to take a stand almost all the time. What if you don't? If the moment doesn't need your opinion to exist, what then? Giving up your thoughts doesn't mean you're idle. It doesn't mean becoming less smart. Giving up the habit of thinking, putting everything into groups, is what it means. Something softer shows up when the mind isn't trying to give every second a meaning. Being there, one that is more present and doesn't try to decide, compare, or come to a conclusion. Like a state of mind that just rests. Not by being indifferent, but by being open. Being this open isn't dull. It's awake. It's quiet, though. There is no "this is right" or "this is wrong" from it. It just hears, looks, and waits. And with that thought, the world gets easier. Even though it's not less, it's no longer split up by thought. It's not just tiring to judge people all the time. It never ends. Mind does more than just judge things. It judges what it judges. I'm too reactive. That was a stupid thought, and I shouldn't be judging. Each one throws more darkness over the moment, one more thread in the mess of noise. Stopping that thread is the only way to get out. You don't need to change the decisions. You don't have to change the negative ones to good ones. You are still judging. You can just pay attention. Oh, there's judgment. Then they let it go. The same as any other thought. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to follow it. You should just not grab it. Thoughts that seem helpful, like "this is peaceful," can turn into noise if you hold on to them. Because the moment isn't so much about peace as it is about how you feel about it. You start to look at the event through the lens of your choice. Even if your taste is light, it still takes you out of the present moment. This doesn't make you feel nothing. It means you should stop fighting. Things are whole again in that moment. There are no parts to praise. There are no broken parts. Just this: how hot or cold the air is, how hard it is on your chest, the sound in the background. All are welcome, all the same. Not a score, not a label. Life as it is. It's possible that you believe judgment is important to stay alive, and having judgment can be helpful sometimes. But most of the time, judgment is just brain chatter trying to keep track of things that don't need to be kept track of. You don't have to say something about every sound, every look, every movement. You don't have to say anything. You can just be here. Right now, pay attention to the sounds around you, no matter where you are. Take note of how the mind forms views right away. That's annoying. That's too quiet. I like this one. And then a pause. The verdicts should go up and down. Do not stop them. Don't feed them, though. Let the sound be. Let the feeling be the feeling. Don't say anything about the moment right now. This is the death of opinion, not by being shut down, but by people not caring about it. Giving up the idea that your mental state matters is one way to do this. It's not true. The bird still sings. The wind is still blowing. The breath is still coming out. The world goes on without your view. You start to feel lighter because thought has weight. It turns being aware into stress. It changes freedom into a plan. But when it's gone, the mind doesn't hold on to things as strongly. You can breathe easier now. You have more room in your chest. After a while, silence stops being a goal and just is. In small ways, you can feel this change. A talk without coming to any conclusions. A painful moment that wasn't called bad. A time during the day when you don't have to do anything but feel full. These are signs of a mind that is free. A mind that doesn't try to make everything fit into its control. That way, when judgment comes back, which it will, you'll be ready for it. Not with a verdict, but with kindness. You can see it rise. It's yours. You let it go. The mind learns something very important in that gentle letting go. It can rest without judging. It doesn't have to pick a side to breathe. This makes the mind more like a mirror the more it goes deep. It shows everything, but it doesn't hold anything. It just mirrors and doesn't say, "This one is better than that one." Of course, in peace. And that's when reality is finally seen for what it is. Not as good or bad. Completely whole. Separation is not what this is. It is closeness. Being really close to life. Not chosen based on taste. not weakened by taste. Just a straight line, the kind that is complete without any comments. When the mind stops trying to categorize every moment as right or wrong, the weight of constant judgment lifts and something deep starts to stir below the surface. It's a kind of presence that doesn't speak, respond, or plan a reply. It does hear. Not the way most people listen, though. You can't use filters, not if you prepare, neither with agreement nor with disagreement. I'm only listening, completely, really, not thinking about it. This is not a passive way to listen. It's awake. There is no better way to stop the mind than to really listen, because once you start doing that, your mind has nothing else to do. It's simple, but not easy to learn how to listen like a Buddha. It means letting sound come in without blocking it or adding to its meaning. Listening to everything, not just other people. Everything. The body. Keep quiet. It means hearing without thinking about it, without thinking about what you're going to say while the other person is still talking, without comparing, defending, or changing in your mind. This way of listening brings peace because it does something very special. It takes the self out of the middle. Listening in everyday life is full of self. Do I agree with this? What do I say in response? Does this make what I believe dangerous? That's just thought, pretending to listen. There is another way to hear sound under all that noise, though, a way that doesn't split people up. That doesn't help. That just lets what is being said be heard. What the Buddha taught is called bare attention. Allowing the moment to take in without changing it is what it means. Hearing a sound without saying whether it's nice or bad. Not judging a voice based on what it says. Leaving it alone to be sound. Feelings of shaking, uses of words, without any hand reaching out to grab and shape them in your mind. It is strong to listen in this way because it shuts down the part of the mind that needs to figure out what is going on. In other words, thought doesn't go away totally. It just moves to the background. It fades into the background. The mind learns to open up like a window instead of a bench of judges. This change is clear in your body. Regular attention makes things tense. There is a small lean forward. The face feels tight, being ready to act. But hearing deeply makes room. The shoulders go down. The breathing gets slower. The chest opens. Since there's nothing to show, there is nothing to keep safe. It's just sound being heard. Use it when you talk. Don't plan your answer before someone talks. Do not judge what they are saying. Just take it in. Allow the words to fill your ears and make you feel calm. Don't fight a thought that comes up. Don't give it food. Do not follow it. Go back to the sound. You will start to notice something strange. That makes people feel safe around you, not because you agree with them, but because your thoughts aren't getting in the way of their time with them. You're letting them be heard, not just by you, but also by the silence. And it's not just good for them, it's for you. Your mind gets quieter the more you listen without thinking. Since you're not adding anything to the moment, you're not making stories out of sounds. Life is not being turned into criticism. This is also true for things that aren't people talking. Wind, birds, traffic from afar. Do not name these sounds. Just let them hit you. Listen to the sound instead of saying, "That's a bird." The beat, the level of. Let your mind rest on the sound like sunshine rests on water, warm, light, and easy. This habit starts to change how you feel about everything after a while. There's no need for words to describe what's going on. It's enough to just have the experience. Peace is something you can feel without having to name it. To stay with pain, you don't have to think about it. When the mind is in close contact, it starts to rest, not in thought, in the present. And this presence starts to fill up more times, not just the quiet ones, the hard ones, though. When someone is mad, when there is a lot of noise, when people have strong views. To avoid reacting, you stay in the moment. You hear the story, but you don't become it. You feel the wind, but you don't turn into it. Separation is not what this is. It's closeness without holding on. It means listening without making everything around you look like your own thoughts. The ego can't take over the event. The moment is free to talk, and you don't have to answer. This is why hearing deeply is like meditating. For no reason, it calms the mind. It shuts down the self by taking away its function. Because you can't be someone else when you're listening. There's no time to act, just being aware, open, and on guard. Zen people say that the sound of a bell wakes you up, not teaches you. What it means is not the point. What matters is how well it's heard. When the mind stops talking over every sound, the world starts to teach, not with thoughts, but with being there. Start out small. Choose to listen fully for 1 minute every day. Take a deep breath. To a friend. To an unknown sound. It should be your teacher. This moment brings you back to it, untouched and raw, not in what it says. And be gentle with yourself when the urge to think comes back, which it will. Take note of it. Do not judge it, but slowly bring your attention back to the sound. Listen to the world instead of thinking about it. At some point, you won't have to remember to listen. It will be background noise to listen. The break will come from thinking. The mind will start to understand something that words could never teach. Quiet is not the lack of sound, it's the lack of thoughts. Now that the mind is listening without responding and the inner chatter is turning into silence, there is a new kind of place that is open, ready to receive, and still. But even when you're open, you don't stop thinking all of a sudden. It stays. It sneaks back in through mind, fear, and memory, among other things. Thoughts can't get to peace, though, because they can't open the door to that peace. Not the body as an idea or a thing, but as a direct feeling that you have. It was a pure, raw, wordless experience. If you let your awareness fully enter your body without trying to explain it, your mind will fade into the background. It won't be quieted by force, but by movement. One clear thought at a time is all the mind can hold. The body is less important when your mind is on your thoughts. But the stream of thought slows down when the mind goes back to the body, not as something to name or direct, but as something to feel. There was no longer a need for it, not because it was pushed away. Being aware only has so much power. After that energy goes into feelings, thoughts can't keep going because they need more energy. Becoming someone else is a secret source of power, not only as a way to stay healthy, but also as a way to find peace. Because the body doesn't use words to think. It doesn't study. It doesn't judge. It has experiences, completely, right away. And the feeling of peace gets stronger when you start to live with it instead of thinking about it. This kind of presence isn't about how to do something. It's not about scanning, relaxing, or getting your stance right. It's about going back home, letting go of the head and focusing on the feet, the chest, those little tips, the way your back curves, how your belly goes up and down. No reason given, no names, just present without any filters. While you're sitting here, try focusing on what you're feeling instead of what you're thinking. Not what you think about how you feel, but how it feels in your body. How hot or cold your hands are, the soft buzzing in your legs, the weight of the earth pulling on your shoulders, and pay attention to what thought does. Not right away, but over time. It gets softer, lessens. It stops being the main focus and turns into background noise. Not this kind of suppression. It's a transfer. There is no fight against thought. In other words, it's being skipped over, not ignored. This is because your mind is now focused on something deeper, older, and more real than any thought could ever be. Being aware of your body is what Buddhists call this. But the word mindfulness can lead you astray sometimes. This isn't about mindful thinking. It's about being in the body so much that your mind can finally rest, so caught up in the flow of breathing that the mind forgets to mess with it. This kind of understanding is not far away. From above, it doesn't watch. It doesn't float away. It grows roots. It makes sense. It gets around. From your toes to the backbones of your body. From the air you breathe to the heartbeat in your chest. It's not magical. It makes sense. Getting in touch with your feelings is the best way to stop overthinking, and the more you rest in your body without trying to use it, the more it shows you that it is living, smart, and naturally still. You start to feel the pulse of presence, not as a thought, but as a sound. A sound that doesn't ask any questions, that is already answered. That is what it is. This way of being brings humility to practice. It doesn't matter how spiritual you are to the body. It does not inquire if you are wise. You only need to show up. How you feel. That you stop trying to figure things out and just let yourself be. The mind stops telling stories when you're fully in the body, because there isn't any more room for comments. The calm you were looking for starts to show itself as the natural state of being that was always there, but you weren't aware you were hearing it because your mind was full of thoughts. You change the way you walk. Do not try to walk better, just more aware. You move slowly. Your muscles get weaker. It feels like the ground is more real because you are now focused on your feet instead of your goals. Not because you need to get somewhere, but because you want to walk. It's even different to eat. The way it tastes, feels, and feels warm. The food tastes better when you're not thinking about every bite. It feels better. It didn't change. But because of how you felt about the moment, and you stay with the pain when it comes up, which it will, not to fix it, not to call it that, to feel it, allow it to burn, allow it to beat, let it talk through feelings instead of thoughts. Look at how it changes, how it moves, how it breaks down without your help. The body knows how to let go. The mind only needs to move out of the way. As time goes on, you start to sense that your body is a place of peace. That's not because it's always easy. However, it doesn't talk. It doesn't turn. It doesn't split the world into ideas. It seems to be. And when that feeling is fully met, it stops making noise in your mind. This is why monks take their time sweeping the floors, why they are quiet while they eat, why they walk without anything else going on. Not because those things are holy, but because they help us stay aware in our bodies. Because when you do something, it turns into a meditation. When you live it, not just think about it. And this happens more and more, making thought move away. It no longer tries to help. It stops trying to make sense. It knows it's not needed here, so it leaves. The body is enough. It's enough to just breathe. There is enough in the moment as it is. That's where real peace starts. No, not in a blank sky, but in the ground you walk on. When you wash your hands with a cup. When you lie down, your neck feels like it's stretching. In the part of your spine that keeps you standing while you breathe, each cell in your body opens a door to peace. Not after, not if you train, now. As soon as the mind is no longer controlling the body through thought, but only direct, wordless feeling, the silence feels more stable, feels more real. But just as the mind starts to calm down, something else comes in quietly. It's not noise or a distraction, but something more subtle, a desire. Not to look at things or have fun, but to be still. The wish to keep the peace, to keep the emptiness, to keep things quiet. And in that need, even if it's spiritual, the noise comes back, but not as sound, but as stress. By holding on to. Try to hold on to something that you can only get when you're not chasing it through your mind. The idea that you can own quiet is one of the last illusions that stands between you and true emptiness. You can get and keep that silence. But the very fact that you want to be calm is what makes things less calm. It makes peace a goal. Now that the mind doesn't think about the past or the future, it starts to think about being calm. That is also thought. That's also a bothersome thing. Buddhism makes this very clear. People don't just crave to have fun or get away. It includes wanting to be in a spiritual state, needing to be clear, needing to understand. Wanting peace is the most dangerous thing. This desire is smart because it wears a robe. It sneaks up on you with good intentions, but it still holds together. It still gets there. It still says, this is not enough right now. That thought of getting somewhere better keeps you from getting where you want to go. Real silence doesn't change when you put pressure on it. No changes can be made to it. It just happens when nothing else is added to the time, when you can no longer grasp, when the mind stops looking for things and starts to rest. This urge can show up in lots of different ways. I was calm before, so why am I not now? Many of these thoughts are care-based, but they really mean other things. For example, if I breathe deeper, maybe I'll feel stillness again. But deep down, they are demands, peaceful ones, but requests still exist. To get past this, the mind needs to learn how to really rest, which means not just not having any thoughts, but also not wanting anything from this moment. Not even the wish to not have any wants. Let the moment be empty. Make it clear. Not much should happen. This is where real peace is. There's no need to fight the urge. Adding that would only make things more difficult. You don't need to think about it. It's not your job to fix it. You just need to be able to see it, to be aware of it when it comes up. Being squished in the chest, that vague hope, that little push from the inside to keep the silence. And don't do anything when you see it. Stay away from it. Leave it there. Let it go up and down. And because you're not involved, it will get weaker. Stay still every time your mind tells you to hold on to this peace. Not by saying yes, no, not by fighting, by letting that thought go by like water running over a leaf. There is no stopping the river. You don't have to leave when someone wants you to. This is how quiet gets stronger. It's not when it's held tight, but when it's let go and come back like air. You are not supposed to keep the peace. Peace doesn't need to be kept safe. It only needs room. The only thing it needs is no pressure. You'll see that peace is not fragile as you let go of your grip. When thought comes back, it doesn't break. It doesn't go away just because you crave it. It sits there, under all of it. It's ready to be seen again once the mind stops trying to take it over. Sit down now with no plan, not a method. Do not expect. Don't try to find calm. Don't make things quiet. Just be. And let your thoughts come up when they do. Feel your anxiety when it comes up. Accept it when the silence ends. Everything. This is not a fail. This is the way. And that's where the strange paradox comes in. Quiet is strongest when you don't care that it's there. It will come when you no longer want it. It settles down when you don't need it to stay, like water that doesn't move when nothing touches it. You start to believe what's being said, not because it's always there the way you expect, but because you know it's always there. It's still there. It's only hidden for now by the mind's reach. Before you even reach the end, there will be silence. This desire shows up in everyday life too. A peaceful moment on a walk, then the thought says, "Don't lose this." And then it's gone. Not because the peace went away, but because the desire came in its place. The thing that stopped it was a strong desire for it. When you stop trying to plan the moment, you'll be free. As you let go of your ideas about what it means to be at peace, how long it should last, what it ought to give. Peace doesn't bring anything good. It's not a present. There's no deal here. It's a return, as a reminder. It doesn't cost anything either. The greatest peace doesn't come from practicing well. The stuff that's left over after practice is over. You'll be relaxing when you're not trying to get somewhere and when you're just there. This is what the old Zen masters meant when they said, "When you seek it, you lose it." Seeking means getting farther away. But when you really stop, not because you don't care, but because you trust, it comes. In peace, kindly, without announcing it. It doesn't stay because you worked for it either. You stopped telling it to leave, so it did. You stopped putting on shows for them. It stopped being a reward for you. Do not try to be extraordinary. Make your technique clear. Let this moment be easy. Let peace happen if it does. Let that go too if it doesn't. Do not wait for nothing to happen. Don't try to be cool. Let it all be enough as you sit in the middle of what's going on. Something quieter starts to happen now that the desire for peace and silence has been met with stillness instead of chase. It's so subtle that it almost feels like nothing. There is no doing, trying, or hoping. But now that there are no demands on you, what you thought was you starts to feel less solid. The person who looked, the person who let go, the person who knew. This witness, which for a long time looked like the last step because it didn't move while everything else did, starts to show itself to be just another layer, a soft net, one last split. Even that can be lost. This is not something that can be made to happen. The witness only goes away when it's no longer needed, when being present is no longer different from what is present, when awareness stops looking at things and becomes part of what is being seen. There is no, "I know this to be true," there is only this. They are helpful for a long time on the road. It makes room for things. It takes the focus off of feelings and thinking. It lets awareness take a step back and watch without getting involved. But after a while, this stepping back turns into a stance, a place to be, a hidden self. There is one more layer of identity that says, "I am the one who is watching." This watcher may be quiet, calm, and kind, but it is still different, still being different from what is. And this split, even when it's not loud, makes division. The principles of Buddhism nudge us in this direction, that the deepest freedom is not in being able to see clearly as an observer, but in being able to see no difference between oneself and what is being watched, not in the aware one, but in the part of the one that falls away. It's not emptiness in a bad way. What's left is the fullness of not having anyone there to take the moment. There is nothing new that needs to be done to get there. In fact, doing will make the watcher stronger. In this step, you don't do anything, you dissolve. The shift starts with realizing how soft the I is still. That I that says, "I'm aware now," or "I'm present now," is quiet. But it's still a thought, still a middle. There will always be two sides to everything. Someone or something is here. But the truth isn't split. If you slow down your watching, you can start to feel this. Not going away, not dulling, but not having to stand out as much. Pay attention to the whole field, not just one thing or one subject. Let there be no purpose, just being there. You are not paying attention to your breath. You're the air. There is no sound coming from you. You are the sound itself. Not "I hear," but "hear." Don't say "I feel," just say "feel." No one inside, nothing outside, just this. The mind will want to take this back at first, to explain it. You might think, this is non-duality, or this is merging, but those thoughts pull you back into the watch, in a certain place, into someone who is on the edge of the event. Let go of all of those thoughts. Do not push them. Do not fight them. Stop giving them food. Let the event happen without adding anything, without someone to go through it with. This is not nothing. It's not a whole. It's just life as it is, not split up, raw, all done. There is no longer anyone watching life. Life is just happening. The air moves. It makes noise. Thoughts may come up, but there is no one who is thinking. It's like the water waves. They don't belong to anyone. They just move. In this way, the sense of self quietly goes away. When the self is gone, silence grows deeper than any effort could make it. You're no longer in quiet. That's who you are. There wasn't any quiet between things. Everything is quiet in this silence. Even moving, even a feeling, even thought. But not as their own, not in the middle. It's just happening, becoming. You can't stay in this state. The witness comes back if you try to hold it. It can't be kept up. A doer shows up again if you try to keep it up. You don't get into it. Something shows up when you stop claiming presence as your own, when no one else is around to work out. It was just the exercise itself. The reason this isn't talked about more often is that words bring us back to duality. It's over as soon as you say, "I merged." No one ever had the merging happen to them. It took place after the person was gone. And so, this moment can never be remembered properly, never owned, never repeated. The gift comes when the ground is ready, when everything that is holding on has dropped away, even awareness. That's why the last command doesn't say anything. Just be, not as a person who is being, becoming. Allow what has been seen to be seen. Feel what you feel. Remove the line between us. It could begin as a moment, a flash, a break in your thinking where everything seems big and open, where nothing is missing when you're gone. Some of these flashes get longer over time. They last longer. Until being present without being in a role is the new normal. It also feels strange to be watched, like a game you used to play. There's no need to fight back, even when the proof comes back, which it will. See it for yourself. Do not fight it. Do not follow it. Let it fade like mist in sunshine. You can make the change seem more natural by letting it appear and disappear slowly, and life goes on after the shift is stable. But it doesn't feel the same. Better, less heavy. No one is in charge of everything. No stories about self-defense. It's not being tried to be right. Just this. Right now. That's enough. Not because you chose to make it enough, but because no one else needs it anymore. Here is the end of the journey. Not a place to go, but an absence. The mind doesn't try to get away from itself anymore, since there is no longer a self to run away from. Pure presence is all that's left. Not yours, not mine, that's all there is. Peace stays there. It doesn't come and go. It doesn't change with the mood. It's not based on anything. Since peace isn't a country, it's the lack of separation. The search is over. Now that the witness has dissolved and there is no longer a center from which to observe or manage experience, the mind enters a deeper stillness, one that doesn't depend on awareness as a position, but flows as undivided presence. But there is still one more habit that stays, even here in this openness. It doesn't pull or yell. It talks softly. It sits there, a strain that you can barely feel, like a thread in the background, waiting for your next thought. Looking forward to the next thought, ready for the next thing to show up. And the waiting is still going on, no matter how soft it is. It's still a way to reach out. And that reaching keeps the mind from resting all the way. This excitement isn't overt. It's not the kind that hopes or plans with a lot of worry. It is better polished, more spiritual behind the scenes. It's the calm look ahead to see what comes next. The mental posture that leans forward just slightly, ready to catch whatever happens. Even after the self has been seen through, even after thought has softened and awareness has lost all commentary, there can still be this readiness, a low hum of getting ready in the mind. And the mind can't fully let go as long as it stays. If you talk in Buddhist terms, this is still grabbing, not for things, stories, or identity, but to keep things going, for the next experience time. The mind is trying to stay in charge by keeping an eye on what's going to happen. But real awareness doesn't plan ahead. It doesn't wait for the next second to start. It is the space that allows all times without reaching for them. This is where the greatest surrender starts, not with effort, but with hope. The hope that something will take place. That thought will come back. That silence needs to be kept. Know that you should stay aware. It's already too much. This is even extra. It's not necessary to try to stop the next thought when you surrender it. Giving up the need to be ready for it is what it means. It means letting go of being a watcher who does nothing but wait for things to happen. It means resting in such complete openness that if nothing comes, that too is allowed. And if something comes up, it goes through without being seen coming or caught. If you sit still long enough, you can feel this habit. There's tension in the middle of the forehead, a small tilt of the head forward, and a readiness to take in whatever comes up. Put it down. Take a step back. Not on any of it. Let it fall. Let it blend into the field. The mind might argue, but what if I stop being present? What if a thought sneaks in at the wrong time? What if I miss the chance? These are some more thoughts. More tries to control things that don't need to be controlled. Now you can't miss, because you don't need to be ready right now. All it needs is for you not to fight it. This sense of waiting often comes up right after the silence feels stable during deep meditation. Mind, not used to not doing anything, quietly gets ready for interruption. It waits for the thought that always comes. But the depth isn't getting deeper because we're waiting. It makes the mind the guardian of the mind. As long as the guard is there, something is being kept back. Now, we need to let go in the easiest way possible, not letting go of feelings or stories, but of being ready. Pay so much attention to the present that no one is left to look at the future. You don't have to wait for the breath to rise and fall. Let the next moment come without falling into it. Thought should come to you or not, without you having to look for it. This is just letting go, the end of all stances, not even a willingness to be open. It's just being open, not even a desire for peace, nothing but empty space. In a new way, you may start to notice the body letting go. The face muscles loosen up. The tongue lies flat on the inside of the mouth. The eyes stop moving energy even when they are closed. The mind goes backwards like a leaf in water. Not a splash, not a goal, just down. Then something very rare takes place. Thought doesn't go away, but it moves more slowly. Without any hope to keep it going, the gear stops working. The next thought might come, but it can't hold on. There is no hand ready to receive it. It's okay to lean toward it. It lands and breaks apart before it can take shape. Even awareness, which used to be sharp and alert, has gotten soft and spread out. Not gone, but not active. Present, but not invested. There isn't any light, no mind scanner. It was just a big, empty field. There is less of a sense of practice after this, because practice means doing something over and over again, meant to, building. However, this spot cannot be used. You can only get back to it by giving up everything. Not a surrender of discipline, but of desire, of hard work, of holding. Let go of everything, even the urge to be aware. You don't have to help awareness. You don't have to keep it alive. You don't have to hold up the sky. Silence doesn't need you to stay focused. Let all of it go. Let thought rise as it may. Let the feeling go away like the wind. Allow sound to come and go. You thought it was you, but you don't have a job anymore. No more power. No more looking forward. There is only silence left, with no edges. That kind of silence that doesn't fear moving. As the next thing doesn't pose a danger. What comes or goes doesn't bother it. It doesn't get ready. It doesn't fight. It doesn't mind if another thought comes up. It knows it doesn't have to be ready. This is rest, not as an escape, but as not having any plans at all. You are no longer the thinker, no longer the seeker, no longer the one sitting behind the curtain and watching. The curtain is down, the play is over, but the stage is still there. Light from something that doesn't need a source. Any thought that comes up now, even one that tells a story or judges, goes away quickly. Why? Because no one else wants to hear it. It goes by quickly, like a whisper in a dark room. You're not the air, not the quiet, not even the police officer. You are what's left when everyone has dropped their roles and nothing else is supposed to happen. Let the next moment happen as it will. No stress, no guards. Let thought arise without meeting it. Allow silence to be broken without fighting it. Everything should be able to move through this area as if it were air. The next thought is no longer yours. You've reached the deepest level of rest when you give up, not because your mind is quiet, but because you're no longer in the middle of what comes up. Stay here. Nothing more is needed. You've just taken a journey few ever dare to take. Not outward into the world, but inward into the silence most people spend their whole lives avoiding. Pieces of noise fell away one by one. It was clear that thought is not truth, but just action. Why do we need to get it right? Relax. The need for peace? Let go of. Even the observer, the last person who was watching quietly, became still. And what was left wasn't nothing. It wasn't nothingness in the hollow sense. It was being open, room, freedom. The kind of peace that stays with you because you don't do anything to change it. It is who you are when you don't try to be someone else. It was taught to you that the mind fills up by naming, watching, remembering, judging, and trying. With each lesson, you got rid of the not. You took a break between breaths. The next thought was no longer a goal. Real life stopped being something to control and started to become something to blend with. There are no edges, there is no center, just this, real and pure. Don't try to explain what it is right away if something inside you feels different. Take a break. Let it get deeper. It will show itself more the more you rest. You don't need to hold on to anything you learned. You can only truly understand what you don't carry. Take a deep breath. Feel like you have no weight. You could write, "I am the silence," in the comments to let us know you made it to the end if these lessons brought you even a moment of peace. Tell us what changed for you. And if you want to keep the most beautiful way to clear your mind, subscribe and turn on notifications. You will soon be able to get back to what you never lost. Close your eyes now. Let everything go. The sound of nothingness knows the way.